speak to a forensic social worker again. They hope to get more information that can help speed up the case. Lindsay Dentlinger reports.
Parliamentarians have added their unhappiness to public outrage over the handling of this case, saying police have not done enough to speed up DNA testing and to identify suspects. But Police Minister Senzo Mchunu says this is not true.
We could have maybe taken the decision to escalate earlier if we realized the complexity of the case earlier. But that is not to say that we didn't investigate.
Police Commissioner Fani Masamola says getting the child victim to speak up is key to making progress. Police say they are now waiting for the child's mother to make her available to receive more psychosocial support that could also help to crack the case. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News.
The Free State High Court has issued a warrant of arrest for one of the accused in the asbestos corruption matter. The trial kicked off yesterday with the accused pleading to the charges levelled against them. 18 people, including former Premier Ace Magashule and businessman Edwin Sodi, stand accused in the dodgy procurement of a 255 million rand tender to remove asbestos from the roofs of 300,000 township houses. Mcebisi reports.
Michelle Mbambani is the widow of Ignatius Mbambani, the businessman who was in a joint venture with Edwin Sodi for the asbestos tender through his company Diamond Hill Trading. Ignatius was gunned down mysteriously on Bowling Avenue in Sandton in 2017 as he stopped at a traffic light in his Bentley. His wife Michelle took over the business and continued overseeing its contracts. She now stands as a representative of Diamond Hill, which faces serious charges including fraud and corruption, but she was not in court yesterday. Her lawyer told the court that she'd been admitted to hospital. State prosecutor Johan van der Neysen asked for a warrant for her arrest, which was issued but stayed until today. This means if Michelle Mbambani does not come to court today, she'll be served with a warrant for her arrest. Mcebisi, Eyewitness News in Bloemfontein.
And Sudan's RSF paramilitary force has announced its own government to rival the current administration spearheaded by the country's army. The United Nations says the conflict between the army and RSF forces since 2023 is the world's worst humanitarian crisis, with 13 million people displaced. The rival government was announced during growing international fears that Sudan could become split between the two sides, who have both been accused of abuses. The Rapid Support Forces are headed by the former deputy to the regular army leader. The RSF and its allies signed a charter in Kenya in February, declaring a government of peace and unity in areas that they control. Gold is trading at $3,285.26 an ounce. The rand is at 19.02 to the dollar, 25.22 to the pound, 21.07 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $63.49 a barrel.
And in the traffic in Kempton Park, we've got an accident reported on the R21 North. It happened right near the R25 turnoff. It's causing delays coming out of the Tambo interchange while traveling in the southerly direction of the R21. Expect delays coming out of the R25. That's due to roadworks taking place along this route.
A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng with scattered showers and thunder showers. The temperatures will peak at highs between 22 and 25 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour: Eastern Cape Police have rescued an American pastor who was kidnapped in Gqeberha.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app. 702.
We're listening to you. 702.
Live
on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7.
And 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
Good morning, it's 9:06. Welcome to the Clement Manyathela Show. My name is Tshidi Madia. Clement Madimecha, as some of you call him, will be safe and sound and behind the microphone with you tomorrow. The long weekend is around the corner. Are you excited? Are you preparing for a long trip? Will you be around? Is it time for you to take in the religious holidays, the different events that are happening, that are unfolding, that are being observed during that time. My favorite thing about this period, and I don't care who judges me, it's just my reality, is that Gauteng, which is home, so people like us who are living here, who are from here, my favorite thing is that it's empty. I love it when these periods come along and everybody goes away, goes back to their homes, goes on holidays, and leaves Gauteng quiet and empty, and the roads are lovely, and you're not fighting for spots in the restaurants. I really, really like that. Did you also catch Mcebisi Jonas' interview? He was on with our Stephen Curtis last night. I think it's an exclusive with Stephen on the Money Show. He's, of course, our new special envoy to the US. He was on 702 last night speaking to Stephen. I think when I listened to Mcebisi Jonas, and you can catch that on primemediaplus.com. I really think that he means well. He's hoping that the US can look past comments he made in his private capacity as an activist, and a long time ago. I mean, that was 5 years ago. And he speaks about, burying the hatchet in essence. I think that unless he's going to the US with the deal in mind, I don't know if it's going to work, because, when you speak about people moving on, you speak about a particular caliber of person or people. I don't think that Donald Trump has that ability. Yes, when it suits him and if it serves him. Again, people think about the Secretary of State in the U.S., Marco Rubio. They speak about his deputy, J.D. Vance. But I feel like those rules, and I said this yesterday, don't apply to the rest of us. I think when it comes to petty, he's right there with the best. And so I don't know about him moving on. I strongly feel that unless Mcebisi Jonas goes with a deal in hand, a package he must forget. Alibale, that's what I think, What is your take? I wonder, following his own thoughts about the way forward. I'll play you a little bit of what he said to Stephen Curtis last night, just to hear what you think, and what he understands of the mission and what he's meant to do to deal with the very frosty relations between South Africa and the US. Also coming up on the show today at 10 o'clock, we'll speak to Helen Zille, try to get an update on talks in the GNU. Remember, the Government of National Unity Coalition is attempting to press a reset button. At 10:30, we'll chat to the Cultural, Religious and Linguistics Rights Commission on the need for proper oversight in the religious sector. 11 o'clock is listener's choice. So today we'll look at the role of an envoy. What is the difference between an ambassador versus an envoy? Of course, we've been talking a heck of a lot this week about envoys because of Mcebisi Jonas. So we'll try to understand what informs the appointment of envoys and their roles. And of course, it's a Wednesday, so we'll finish off with the sharing space. Our lines, remember, are open throughout the show. We start off, of course, with the open line where you call the shots, put anything really that you want to talk about on our collective agenda. Our number, of course, is 011 883 0702 072 702 1702 to send voice notes and WhatsApps.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
Yeah, I do want to get your thoughts on Mcebisi Jonas. I'm still very much processing that appointment. I think it's an important one at a crucial time. If you listen to all the key stakeholders, our relationship with the US does matter. No matter how you feel, the facts on paper are, this is one of our largest trading partners. We have a sluggish economy. We complain about the lack of job creation, that in order to get us out of where we are at the moment, you've got to try and retain as many good relations as possible. You've got to try and get the most out of the relationships that you have with as many people as possible. We are still, as I said, processing the news coming from the union buildings where President Ramaphosa appointed businessman. Yes, I know some of you disagree with that labeling, but that is who he is understood to be. Former politician and activist Mcebisi Jonas, as the special envoy to the US, he is tasked with attempting to mend relations between South Africa and the US. He has stressed the importance, like I said, of the relationship between the two countries. And of course, he did not shy away when Stephen asked him about the questions around the comments he made when he was speaking at the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation back in 2020. I want you to take a quick listen to what Mcebisi Jonas had to say.
All the people you're going to see now in the US, they all come from one party, and they all come from a party that supports the President Donald Trump. And back in 2020, you delivered the Ahmed Kathrada Memorial Lecture in that year. You described Trump as a racist homophobe, as a narcissistic right-winger. Now you have to deal with the Trump administration. Can you still deal with that?
I guess, and I must put that in context, because, at the time, I was outside of government. At the time, I was speaking as an activist, and I think these things happen. People move on, and confront the challenges of the time. I'm sure if you Google any politician has said something nasty about one other politician or the other. But the reality of the matter is that the challenge that we all face and the task at hand, it is to work on the relations between the two countries. And I think, firstly, I'm committed to doing that. But secondly, I think I've got the backing of government initially, but also of South Africans in general.
It's a tricky one. There are plenty of American politicians who now work with Trump who've said pretty bad things about him, and they've all had to sort of beg forgiveness or had to pledge allegiance or something. I'm no expert on American politics. It seems to me that they've done that. It seems to me he's looking for reasons to pick a fight with South Africa.
I wouldn't. I guess, let's accept that, our relations, the nature of South African relations and the souring predates the Trump administration. Because I think we must not make the mistake that most of the problems we have started suddenly with the Trump administrations. Most of the issues, whether are issues of trade, whether they are kind of economic relations issues, or whether to overlay that geopolitical issues, all of these issues predate the current administration in the US. So in a sense, therefore, I think it has been something that South Africa has been engaged with for quite some time. And my task is to kind of understand what grounds have been covered, what has not been covered, what are the blockages, and also to understand the thinking from the other side, so that we can frame our responses appropriately to deal with the challenges, so to speak. We believe, and I'm a believer, that the world is for all of us, and we must find commonalities and areas where we could work and strengthen the commonalities to achieve a greater good. And I think it's possible to do that.
What do you think? That's the voice there of Mcebisi Jonas. Abel says you could confuse it at a whim to that of Advocate Dalimpofu. But it's Mcebisi Jonas speaking to our colleague Stephen Grooters on The Money Show last night. For more of that interview, you can go to primemediaplus.com. I want to tell you what I think, and I said it earlier. I do think that Mcebisi Jonas means well. I think he has a great appreciation of the dilemma, that we actually are in a quagmire. But I think none of this will mean anything if he makes his way to the US without a cap in hand, armed with a proposal, or as they keep telling us, with a package. How many times has Donald Trump spoken of the need for a package? He's very clear. And we understand that the man in the White House, who, whether you like it or not, was democratically elected, is very much a transactional being who wants to cut deals, nothing but deals. What are your thoughts? 011-883-0702. You can call in and share those, or you can call on... Let me do that again. 011-883-0702 to call, or 072-702-1702 for WhatsApps and voice notes. The other thing about Mcebisi Jonas' appointment, which is quite curious for me, is, and I said this yesterday, that the Ahmed Kathrada comments were apparently known to people in government. I actually also mentioned the issue of MTN's intersection with Iran and Mcebisi Jonas. And mind you, from my understanding now, that did it did catch the curiosity of some of the Americans when they first heard, even before the Kathrada comments. They're like, MTN, interesting. Iran, interesting. So it'll be very interesting to see how that part goes down. Of course, then there's the Kathrada comments that he's now said that he believes that people move on, that he was speaking in his private capacity. What I also understood is this is a job that he did want. This is a mission he wanted. I've been getting it from a lot of authorities that this is something that he lobbied for. And part of the question that we were asking is, but what did government not know? Again, I'm here to say, from my understanding, they were aware. And some keep making an argument that by J.D. Vance, but Marco Rubio. And I keep saying the rules are not the same. They will not apply rules to themselves as Americans, to the rest of us outside of the United States. But again, for me, my biggest thing is they will not treat us, right, like they treat themselves. They will not be as forgiving. And it might not even be about what Mcebisi Jonas said or did not say. No, they're looking for an offer of something. They feel they've done so much for the world. And Donald Trump says it over and over again. They're looking to get something out of all the countries. Everybody else they want something to be offered, to put on the table. Even his G20 appearance, his arrival, his participation at the end of the year, I believe, will be down to what do we offer them in order for that to happen. Listen to some of your voice notes.
Good morning, Tshidi. Mcebisi Jonas' tone, for me, well, maybe he sounds like he's speaking with a smile, but I don't think that will really convince. The very same thing to me. It sounds cold, and I wonder if it will convince Donald Trump. Donald Trump being what he is, that type of animal he is. I wonder. I really don't think he will convince Donald Trump, even if he was going to be speaking from a clean slate, not with the background that he has of having spoken. And I don't see what was the reason. Why would he have been? Why would he? What was pushing him to have said such things? Some people sometimes when they talk and such things, they drop in bombs when it is not even necessary. And to me, he's not going to convince Donald Trump. Eden from Marshalltown.
Today, Tato here. Tshidi, we're dealing with a petulant, vindictful, vengeful man-child who runs his government via tweets half the time. He tweets something and his team have to rally behind him to align the tweet with either government policy or with some sort of reality. There is no way he's not aware by now, between him and Elon Musk, of what Tshidi Jonas has said already. So for me, don't send him in. And we can't argue that because half of his cabinet spoke smack about him on the campaign trail, therefore Tshidi Jonas can get away with this. The duck is dead. Need to regroup and send someone else in. Already Trump is probably thinking, they're sending a Jonas brother, but this one can't sing and he hates me. I told you about South Africa.
Did you say they're sending in a Jonas brother? That's a little bit funny, Tato. But I agree with you. I think it'd be very difficult. And because this is something that he actually sought in terms of Mcebisi Jonas, from my understanding, a lot of people are now going easy fit for purpose because there's now controversy. You also don't want that. You want somebody who's beyond reproach because you are dealing with quite a petulant a leader. And even if he's not going to go directly to the White House, he's going to go out by other means to get there. The person who's meant to deliver the message will also matter, unfortunately. The messenger matters. So there have been lots of back and forth about whether or not he's also the right person. That conversation is also intensifying if you pay attention. I had somebody saying that, do we not need perhaps a former president? We've got 3 former presidents who are still around. We've got former President Thabo Mbeki, former President Jacob Zuma, former President Clement Manyathela. So some are suggesting that maybe somebody of that stature, where Trump would feel like, oh, South Africa's taking this matter very seriously. So there's that suggestion. There was a suggestion that maybe somebody like Tokyo Sexwale, because they view him as a transactional being. He's also a businessman. But remember, when the apprentice came to South Africa, Tokyo Sexwale presented the apprentice. And if the US president is such a narcissist, one wonders whether or not that will tickle his fancy and make things a little bit better for us. I don't know. This is an unconventional president who's not following the rules. Convention, diplomacy, those things don't matter. I've heard suggestions about Oyama Mabandla maybe being better, or somebody even like Derek Hanekom. Of course, that's an argument that could also be made based on the fact that they seem to want people who look a particular way. That's why now the conversation even about an ambassador, if you're paying attention, goes, should it be a white Afrikaner male? Should it not? That's where we are, unfortunately, in the conversation about our relationship with the US. I see all your calls. I'm coming to you now. Fernando in Germiston, let me start with you. Good morning.
Tshidi, lekker show. Here's my take. I think it's an excellent appointment to have Mr. Jonas. I think his stand against corruption and state capture will stand him in good stead with the Americans who take it dimly on corruption. I think Donald Trump is sick but he's also thick-skinned, and I think he understands and knows that people criticize him. And I think Mcebisi Jonas knows exactly what is at stake, very unlike Mr. Rasool, who was very pro-Palestinian and had leanings towards Hamas, who the Americans don't take too lightly. I think Mcebisi Jonas knows exactly what at stake. Absolutely fantastic appointment.
All right, Fernando, you must remember this country's government is very pro the people of Palestine and their cause as well. So Mcebisi Jonas would not be removed from that. I mean, then you must speak about how Hamas is where it is. Then you must speak about why Hamas is the role it plays in Palestine. How did that come about? And whether or not the government can ignore people.
October the 7th means everything. Hamas is a known terrorist organization. Mcebisi Jonas stood in face of corruption. That's what I'm getting to. Excellent appointment.
Okay,
the Americans take a tick off against people who are against corruption.
As if they're beyond corruption, particularly this leader, Fernando, but thank you. I'll take that. Imagine saying that Donald Trump, a convicted felon, is above and beyond corruption, please. I don't necessarily accept that. But I also think that when it comes to Hamas and this country's stance, or at least Palestine, let me focus on Palestine, the Palestinian people. Mcebisi Jonas is also from the ANC. Don't remove him from his political party. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but don't do that. Don't create exceptions and a narrative that simply isn't reality. Labogang and Bryanston, hi.
Hi, Tshidi. I just want to say that I think we're just giving this thing so much attention unnecessarily. All that Trump and Elon Musk is Starlink and to get the minerals for their batteries. So that's all we need to give them. If we don't gonna give them, they're not gonna go away, and we're just gonna be on our own. But I also think that this is just so much attention on this thing when there's so many other issues in South Africa with violence and people getting killed, getting hijacked, and women getting killed. I really think we should focus on that rather than focusing on Trump every day.
All right, Labagang, simply put, we know what they want. We should focus on that. Thank you so much. That's Labagang out in Bryanston. Obed in Winchester, hi.
How are you?
Good, Obed. How are you?
I'm okay, thanks. I think the lady who just spoke now touched a little bit on what I want to say. And I agree with you, Tshidi, when you say that Donald Trump is a transactional being, and that is 100%. It's not into talking. It's all about what are you bringing on the table. Yes, Jonas is a good appointment, I believe and I understand. But if he goes to the U.S. empty-handed, he's going to come back empty-handed. So here's the deal. We are dealing with two people here, Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Now, we need to start first with Elon Musk. Give him Starlink. I'm saying this because I follow Elon Musk on Twitter. The way he mourned and cried about Starlink, the way he was rejected in South Africa, he is really pained. And well, most of the things Donald Trump is doing is engineered by Elon Musk. And why am I saying that? Because Donald Trump doesn't know what's happening in South Africa. To show you that somebody is telling him things he doesn't even know about.
They've got enough intelligence, Obed. They've got sufficient intelligence, world-class intelligence, to know what is actually happening in the country. They're opting. That's why I keep calling this thing disinformation. It's not a mistake. It's very deliberate. My quick question for you, though, Obed, sorry to cut in. The issue of Starlink, you say that what we know what we need to do, just give Elon Starlink. But what of the country's own policies? What kind of country caves in and just gives somebody what they want? How will we look at our own government?
Okay, you see now, we want to mend the relationship with America. You got to give something. If we are not willing to give anything, it's not going to happen. Because for Donald Trump, it's not about talk. It's about deal. And if we're not willing to make a deal, Mcebisi Jonas rather, sit back at home. There's no need going there. I can tell you that for free. All right.
Thank you so much. That's Obed out in Winchester. You've got to come with something in hand. I do also believe that he can't go there empty-handed. You can't go there on a fact-finding mission to go explain disinformation. They know what the truth is. I firmly believe they know. I don't buy the story that they are being fed by AfriForum, that these fringe groups in South Africa are actually impactful. They are just a necessary tool in a different campaign to get what they want out of the country. Sister out in Houghton, hello.
Hey, Tshidi, how are you?
Very good, thank you. What's on your mind?
Tshidi, just listening to your two callers. I think, for them to even think that you just have to go there and give Starlink and then everything will be fine. it's a bit, I don't even know how to say it, because firstly, if that was the case, Donald Trump could have just said that in the beginning. This is what I want. South Africa, give me that. And also, we can't really dismiss the policies of this country just to satisfy one man. What happens tomorrow when Donald Trump decides again, I want this, otherwise I'm taking this away from you, South Africans? What are we going to do? Are we going
Sister,
to
think
just
about Russia. Think about Russia.
Yeah, exactly.
There's an interesting thing unfolding around Russia. The G7 countries are stuck. They can't put out a statement condemning Russia. Why? Because the US blocked it. Why is the US blocking the condemnation of Russia suddenly? And where would we be with the same country that has been berated over our handling of the Russia-Ukraine conflict? And then you turn around and America is now posturing in a different direction. And then we have egg on our faces.
Yeah, and another thing, one caller said, talking about this topic every day, it's wasting time. If she understood how many people have lost their jobs just because of this Donald Trump stunt, she would not speak. I think people are speaking because they're sitting in a comfortable position. They're not understanding that this stupid stunt that Donald Trump is doing is causing a lot of headache and drama to other people. I think we need to go there. As they say, yes, we need to sit at the table and speak. But also, I don't think the person we are sending really is the right person, because what's his name? Mcebisi Jonas was right there during the state capture, and instead of him standing out and speaking out, what did he do? He decided to resign and wrote a book about it. You know what I mean? So I don't think Umar Ramaphosa, he has his senses. I think he's just going around doing what he thinks is best, but it's not best for this country. So
Sister, but you're unfair to Mcebisi.
I am telling. I mean, this is my opinion today. I think he didn't do much. For me, I felt. I mean, I think, and even when we went for his book review, I asked him the same question. What did you do at that time? He said, no, it was hard for everyone to act. But really, some people acted, and some people lost their jobs. But he didn't want to lose his comfort zone, and he opted on moving away. So that's how I feel. And I also, as I said, I don't think he's the right person to go there. For him to say, I said this 5 years ago when I was an activist, makes no difference.
Okay,
and the one thing is, we'll be lucky if he makes it right in America.
Okay,
that's
sister.
the first thing.
Thank you, Sister in Houghton. I love when I say, don't say he didn't do anything. So that's my opinion, okay? So I'll accept your opinion, but I do think that he tried to tell people within his own political party what is going on. Was that sufficient? No. I mean, if you revisit the state capture conversations, even President Ramaphosa, I remember him testifying, going to the commission, and he was saying, like, he had options. Do you leave? Do you fight from within? And I also don't know if I felt satisfied with how they navigated some of them, that particular period. And I don't even know if it's fully behind us as it is. Someone on Twitter says, Jabu Nicholas Gianna says, people keep on saying that Elon Musk's Starlink was rejected, but ICASA said there's no application that was submitted to them. So he is demanding and crying for Starlink, on social media. And we must bow to that. Hi guys, please man. It's 9:30. Here is Fiso with your news headlines.
Thanks, Tshidi. Good morning. Disaster management teams in KwaZulu-Natal remain on high alert as heavy rains continue in parts of the province. A level 5 weather warning for significant rainfall is in effect for the districts of eThekwini, Ilembe, Umgungundlovu, Ugu and Herigwala. KZN has been hit hard by heavy rains in recent months, with government declaring it a disaster-affected area. Investigations are continuing into a deadly shooting at Walter Sisulu University in the Eastern Cape. It's alleged students attacked a residence manager and his family at the Mthatha campus and torched his car yesterday. The demonstrators allegedly led to the residence manager shooting at the protesters. And Chinese President Xi Jinping has met with Malaysia's king during a state visit as Beijing tries to position itself as a stable alternative to US President Donald Trump's harsh tariffs. Malaysia, Southeast Asia's third largest economy, was hit with a lower tariff of 24% by US President Donald Trump, who has since put a 90-day pause on the levies. But Trump reserved his heaviest blows for China, imposing additional 145% levies on many Chinese imports. Those are the headlines this EWN, and more at 10 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at this hour, heading in and out of the Joburg CBD, you can expect heavy delays. You can expect about a 30-minute delay. This is in the Amalgam Selby area on the M2 westbound between the Crown Interchange and Main Reef Road. Also on Main Reef Road between Nasrec Road and the M2. Avoid that route if you can. If you're leaving Tembisa, heading towards Pretoria, that's the Kempton Park area, there's slow-moving traffic. This is on the R21 northbound between Atlas Road and the R23 Benoni off-ramp. Also, traffic a bit sluggish heading towards Four Ways. That's in Bryanston, N1 northbound between Malibonga Drive and Winnie Mandela Drive. Also, look out for those faulty traffic lights in Bryanston at Winnie Mandela Drive and Sloan. If you come across any other traffic issues, please SMS us on 31702. We are also on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Africa Milani.
Weekday mornings,
4 to 6.
It's still unclear to me as to what led the residence manager at Walter Sisulu University to pick up his gun and shoot at the people. Do you have any insight as to what happened on Monday?
At about 12 o'clock, I should have made my way to Mthatha campus in order to gather more information on the matter on the ground. We've interacted, though, with our comrade, student leadership and the SRC, gather that has taken place and what are the steps forward from the side of the student leadership.
Alungile Kamche, the president of the South African Student Congress.
Africa Milani.
4 to 6 on 702.
Are you ready to take control of your financial future? With personalized solutions tailored to your audacious goals. African Bank is more than just a bank. We are your partner in progress. Because when you grow, we grow. Join the bank that backs you. Visit our branch or go online to join. African Bank. Audacity to believe. African Bank Limited is an authorized financial services and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Brush, stroke, paint, color, protect, and admire. From roof paint to exterior textures and interior silk, Warrior Paints has it all. The product range and stylish colors are amazing. And what's more, Warrior Paints has crushed prices for incredible savings. Enjoy that good old-fashioned personal service you deserve. For price, quality, variety, and service, Warrior Paints is streets ahead. Warrior Paints. Affordable, lasting luxury.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We are also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct. To give you balanced programming, fair comments, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we are not living up to the code, let us know on comment at 702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission. Email bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more, visit bccsa.co.za.
Are you the owner of a hospitality business, or do you rent out your holiday accommodation? Share your holiday guest house horror story now. WhatsApp 072 702 1702 and tune into 702 Afternoons with Lebohile Mabocha tomorrow from 1 p.m.
702.
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
It's 9:35. You're listening to the Clement Manyathela Show. Tshidi Madia in for Clement Manyathela. I want you to also think, as we're having this open line and we're discussing various issues, I want you to also think about the Eastern Cape. So today, President Cyril Ramaphosa is back in the Eastern Cape. He's there for a cabinet oversight of the province. He's actually been doing quite a few of these. Think about, I think is it last month? He was in Gauteng, where people complaining about the state of Joburg. He met with the city, met with the province. So they're doing the same thing. I think they've also done it possibly in Mpumalanga, and if I'm correct, maybe Limpopo. So they're actually doing quite a few of these, checking on service delivery across the different metros, municipalities, and provinces. But I found a story that I heard in the Eyewitness News Bulletins really curious. So Alpha Ramushwana is in the Eastern Cape on behalf of EWN. He spoke of a bridge that was damaged by the rains, the floods. He went to an area called Kwanobuhle in the Eastern Cape, and he said that residents there were growing quite angry. They're angry every day, increasingly angry, over delays in repairing a collapsed bridge. So that bridge is called the Matanzima Bridge. It's in that Nelson Mandela Bay municipality. It collapsed in June last year due to heavy rainfall and soil erosion. What's interesting for me about the story is 89 million rand was set aside to reconstruct the bridge. 2 contractors were appointed for this job. And what residents have told Alpha is that though there was a 6-month timeline to fix the bridge, what they saw happening was a few days before the president visited, because he went to visit the site last year, repairs were happening. Suddenly repairs are being done on the bridge just a few days before the president is due to visit. The president goes to the bridge, speaks about the importance of getting the work done. The president leaves, and shortly after his departure, the repairs stop. So the community continues struggling with the bridge that's not working. Taxi drivers complain that their tires are constantly being damaged because they have to find alternative ways to get around that area, because that bridge is the only connection between that particular township, right, Kwanobutle, and the city in Kabeja. So this bridge has collapsed, millions were spent, but the only time there was a semblance of activity was when the president was expected to arrive. It took me back to when I went to Alice in the Eastern Cape, unfortunately, as well, where they were marking 100 years of the Fort Hare University, the centenary. And I went to a little house where Professor Z.K. Matthews sat once, penning what would become parts and pieces, the ingredients, if you may, of what we held today as our Freedom Charter. That little house has a plaque on it. There's a recognition that it is a heritage site. It was completely dilapidated. At the time, they were about to start fixing it. I was there the whole week. They started fixing it midweek because former then President Jacob Zuma was going to be in Alice to mark 100 years of Fort Hare, and that would also mean visiting this house where Professor Z.K. Matthews lived. And I thought to myself, what is this? What is it that forces officials, authorities, if you may, governments to want to do the work, to put on a show, but not to actually do the work? Think about the G20 foreign ministers meeting. That happened now in February. We complain about traffic lights in Joburg all the time, the state of the roads, the fact that they don't cut the grass. And woke up one morning, it was a Thursday, I'll never forget. Greyston traffic lights suddenly working. They hadn't worked for 2 years. And they're working because there was a high-level delegation in the country of foreign ministers from around the world. It wasn't about us. No. It was about putting on a show for the high-level delegation. It's fixing the bridge so that the president can see work is being done. As soon as he turns around and he leaves, that work, the spades, the shovels all get put down. I don't understand that. And I'm trying to figure out, how do you deal with that as community members? Because you can make an argument that, no, you must vote these people out. That's fantastic. But we vote only once in a while. What do we do in between? Do you engage in your community? Do you know your councillor? Where do you go? What are the avenues that you turn to when you try and manage this? How do you hold your councillors, your government accountable? Because it's not right in my head that this bridge, where 89 million has been set aside to reconstruct, should take only 6 months to fix. It's now taking so long. I don't get it. 011-883-0702, 072-702-1702. And of course, we're also chatting about Mcebisi Jonas' appointment as the special envoy to the US.
Good morning, Tshidi. I don't think there's anything that South Africa can do to appease Donald Trump. This man has reached a point of no return about South Africa. So he's on a high horse. And I think as a country, we must just cut our losses and move on. We are part of BRICS Plus. So I don't think we need America that much. Thank you very much, Peter Maila Machaba from Letswata.
Hi, 702. With regards to this Mcebisi Jonas appointment, I think we're being silly. Unfortunately, we're dealing with a very stubborn and obstinate government in the Trump administration. And we should just, whether we like it or not, we need them more than they need us. And we should just play by the rules that they want. And everyone said that, Tony Leon would have been the best person for the job. But we seem to be, more interested in getting a black person there than getting anyone else there. And it's going to shoot us in the foot, We should just do what we need to do to get things going and get things right so that our country can prosper. Like I said, whether we like it or not, we need America for us to prosper a little bit. I'm not saying they're the only ones. But let's do what we need to do for the sake of the country. Send Tony Leon, let him fix the problems. Hopefully he can. And if they're gonna look favorably to him, let's do that, please. Thank you, Sanjay.
Very good morning, 702 Landers and Tshidi. In the words of the former president Nelson Mandela, a man who changes his principles based on whom he is dealing with can never be a leader. Mr. Mcebisi Jonas said what he said. That is what he felt, and that is what he concluded. Why does he change his stance now? Yes, it was said in his personal capacity, but why does it change now if that's how he felt about Donald Trump back then? He shouldn't be justifying it. If anything has changed, he should then say he's changed his stance, not justifying what he said. Thank you. Sbu here in Rustenburg.
Thank you so much for that, Sbu. Big questions about, leadership. And that's the question. There's an interesting WhatsApp here that says, read to understand the trade states, Tshidi. America is exploitative, and now, as predicted, they have a mama's boy in charge. We need to eat or be eaten. It's now or never. Simple as that for some people. And that's how, you read it. It just also dawned on me, and I want to put this out there as well. It just dawned on me that whatever we think we went through with Ruben Bridgetti, and we were upset over the Lady R saga, I think that that'll be a walk in the park. Okay? I strongly feel now that that'll be a walk in the park compared to what it might be this time around with Leo Brent Bozal. I think what's coming around the corner feels a little bit scarier than what we dealt with. Our feelings, if they were heightened during Lady R, I don't know. I think we'll all need to maybe go to therapy, because those tensions, I think, are going to only get worse if we don't give them what they want, because that's the threat that we keep getting. In fact, I won't be surprised, by the way, if they try and fast-track Bozell's appointment, if he's here just in time for G20. I said earlier, I don't believe, unless we give a package, we do an offer, that Donald Trump will actually be in South Africa. They all want to show him these magnificent golf courses. Nada. I don't see that happening unless we are prepared to make a deal. The US is very clear. So I also wonder if he had to go, about the kind of reception he would receive. Kaelo in Joburg, hi. I think I've lost Kaelo. Lesego from Bryanston, good morning.
Good morning, Tshidi. Hope you're good. I'm just baffled by the number of calls that come through. Mcebisi Jonas shouldn't, we must put, this is a special envoy. It's got nothing to do with the ambassadorship that is being proposed. It's people that will possibly go to the States who are going to lobby their friends or business partners or the economic world that side to speak on our behalf. So it's got nothing to do. If we were to handpick a white person here, a black person here, at this point, John Steenhuisen also said bad things about Trump. So no one will qualify it, because we've all said bad things about Trump. But at this current moment, we need a team that's going to go there, lobby on behalf of South Africa, irrespective of what their beliefs are. They're going to lobby there and try and get a deal for South Africa and trying to align. So people need to get it. And don't forget, you're dealing with someone who said he's the best deal maker, who's Donald Trump.
Your line is starting to be a little bit choppy. Let's try that again.
No, I'm saying we mustn't forget. The person.
Sorry, Lesoko's line is not too great there, but I think he's made his point very clear that it's not about dealing with government. It's about trying to lobby the different people to try to get to the White House, in essence, to try and influence our relationship, and that there'll be different envoys. The president said as much earlier in the year, that there'll be different envoys to send a communication. I just don't believe that fact-finding is part and parcel of what we ought to do at this point in time. Here's some more of your voice notes.
Hi, good morning, Tshidi. Amos from Randbeck. The issue about people moving when they know the president is coming is a culture issue. If you look around, you'll see it in most communities. They only move when there's people coming over. Some houses are almost collapsing. They get fixed only when there's a funeral and people will be coming over, just to try and save face. But that issue of them moving when somebody senior is coming around might actually work. The government should just have inspectors who go around to check these places. Maybe people will move then.
Hi, Tshidi. Yes, Tshidi. Yeah, it's Isaac from Orange Farm. I think I did a lot about the road that is a river, that it got not a pothole, it got holes. Yeah, in Orange Farm, and then nothing is happening. I did report it to the councillor. I did do everything. Nothing is happening. Nothing. That road is bad. I can send you a picture of it. I did send it to you long ago. That road is bad. It's bad, city.
Hi, Tshidi, it's Mcebisi in Joburg. For a president who's constantly surprised about everything, including the fact that the city he lives in is in shambles, I wouldn't be surprised that he probably doesn't even watch the news or know what's happening in the country, because all the things you've just described about work happening because there's an important delegation that is coming, and there has to be song and dance because of that important delegation. I feel like he and leaders like that are the problem. The problem being that we have to do a song and dance for them as opposed to them being in service of the people. And that's the problem. That is precisely the problem, that the bridge isn't about the people. Fixing things isn't about the people. It's about the comfort of the leaders we elect. It's Mcebisi.
Thank you so much. That's a very big problem, Mcebisi. Putting on a show, a song and dance for the leaders. I don't think, by the way, that the president is unaware. I don't buy that argument that he's unaware of what's happening in the news. A lot of people in his office, even sometimes when I call looking for commentary, they're like, "Oh, but you were just saying this on the radio. Why are you asking us when you are so sure of ABCDE?" So I do know that they monitor. They're very mindful of the things we say. I've had run-ins with the premier in this province over comments I've made on this station. So I do know that they tune in. There's a WhatsApp on the WhatsApp line. The president owns a house in Hyde Park, so fixing the streets of Sandton because he's coming can't be correct. If anything, it implies that he's part of the problem. Yeah, what's that saying? The fish rots from the head up. The president, that's why I remember the time where he was pictured in the Joburg CBD, and there was a back and forth about why he was there. And I think there was an explanation that the premier tried to give that we were all like, yeah. But I think I now understand what it was, how he ended up in the Joburg CBD late at night. And for me, though, I was like, you can't be surprised about what it looks like. Lutuli House. Your political party is in the heart of the Joburg CBD. So the rot that we all see when we go into the CBD, and I'm in the CBD pretty much every day. I drive on Joe Slovo every day. You see that. I even see the improvements when on Joe Slovo. I mean, now the traffic lights are working and I'm able to say, oh, look, that's interesting. So absolutely, I take that point. I'm going to take a quick break. Kusta's in Midrand. I see you. I'm coming back to you after this.
At 7:02,
We are proud of a lot of things.
but none more than our connection to you.
Because we know when we walk the talk,
We're never alone.
I had been waiting so long for UIF for 18 months, and Kabazela and John Perlman had somebody from UIF on. And you know what? I finally got paid, and I just want to say it's actually saved my life. So 702, thank you, and you reach far and wide to all people.
Every SMS,
voice note,
email,
phone call,
your every word leads to action.
that changes lives, changes minds, uplifts communities, and holds authority to account.
Together, we've turned dialogue into good deeds.
And promises into progress.
Yes, we did that. You and 702. So, stay tuned.
Because if this is how far we've come, imagine how much further we can go.
When we stick together, 702.
Let's walk the talk.
How would you like to lighten the load when it comes to getting your freight there conveniently and on time? You can with a tag. No scrambling around for cash or a card. Less time wasted. Choose the convenient way. To drive smart, download the Sanral app to link your cards and manage top-up payments for your convenience. For more info, visit sunral.co.za. Tags are the way to go. Sunral, an agency of the Department of Transport.
When it comes to corporate travel, South African Airways knows what you need. SAA services are designed specifically for the business traveler. Experience competitive rates, flexible travel options with waived change fees, and fully refundable and flexible tickets for a hassle-free journey. SAA dedicated key account management means your travel needs are meticulously handled every step of the way. Plus, earn Voyager miles on every trip and relax in our luxurious business class lounges. South African Airways, where your travel needs are our priority. We don't just fly you, we prioritize your travel needs. Visit flysaa.com or call your nearest travel agent to tailor your corporate travel experience. South African Airways, transforming business travel.
Dear Journal, adulting, day 3,700 and whatever. Just bought a bunch of supplements I can't pronounce to try and fix my sleep schedule. What a game changer. So chuffed I spotted them when I was doom scrolling at 11:53 p.m.
Finally learning about mental health. Get covered at pineapple.co.za. It's convenient and like 19 Rand a day, so it's 100% the insurance for you. Underwritten by Old Mutual Alternative Risk Transfer Insurer Limited, licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP. Premiums are risk profile dependent.
This Freedom Month, 702 invites you to a soulful celebration of democracy and music. Join us for an exclusive afternoon of world-class live jazz, gourmet dining, and connection. Curated by Jazz and Beyond's Nothemba Madumo, Wednesday, 30th April, at the historic Sanctuary Mandela, Houghton. With performances by Fea Faku, Herbie Tswaedi, and Ziza Maftik. Plus a global concert live stream from Abu Dhabi. Celebrate the freedom of jazz on International Jazz Day with 702 and Jazz and Beyond. Powered by Omoda. Limited seats available. Book now at ticketmaster.co.za.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
9:53, the Clement Manyathela Show. Tshidi Madia in for Clement. I see Floyd on Twitter. Amu Floyd has actually posted an interesting article. It's a front page of the Herald. We are obviously discussing the idea of having officials, first of all, fixing things at the last minute when they're expecting high-level delegates, expecting the president to come along. And, of course, we're speaking about Mcebisi Jonas, the special envoy to the US. And Amu Floyd just posted a front page of the Herald, and it says, "Welcome to our broken city, Mr. President." And what you see are traffic lights falling over, rubbish, dilapidated buildings, roads that aren't working. And that's the thing. That's the thing. That's what he goes back to. He is, of course, on a cabinet oversight in the Eastern Cape, focusing, funny enough, on service delivery. And that's a core issue for a lot of people. Kustas, you want to chat about Mcebisi Jonas. Hi.
Yes, there's nothing wrong with Mr. Jonas. However, in order for him to succeed, you have to lay a ground for him to succeed. I do not know why the South African government is not reaching out to the Israelis. Because the Israelis, it was Netanyahu who went to Washington that all of a sudden changed. Donald Trump wasn't talking about South Africa at all until Netanyahu went there. You see, so the Israelis are absolutely unhappy with South Africa's stance at ICJ. So if that's the case, a diplomatic solution must be found with the matter of this case and what is going on in the Middle East. So in other words, I do not know why we're not engaging them to make sure that we turn things around in Israel, okay, not in Israel per se, but for the Palestinians. In turn, you withdraw the case and the negotiations continue. The Americans, I can tell you, Netanyahu is going to make one call. Donald Trump is not going to even worry about the Afrikaners in South Africa because they're just a pawn.
No, he doesn't care about them. He's not interested in that.
He doesn't care about them, yes. So the key issue here, in order for this to succeed, DERCO should have reached by the Israelis by now. Let's just say they want to send him next month. This month, they should have reached to the Israelis for negotiations. The Israelis are going to call the Americans and say, hey, South Africans want to talk. And when he gets to land in Washington, because he's not going to private government alone, when he lands in Washington, the ground is already fertile for him to say, let's hear what you have to say.
To start trying to lobby. But Kustas, how does South Africa speak to Israel when a process started by South Africa has him being declared a war criminal? There's a warrant of arrest. Where are the talks there? Because I think that's part of the problem, and you're right. And I want you to be very brief. I do know that every time he goes to the US, South Africa becomes an issue. I do pick up on that too.
Yes. Put it this way, there is no a solution that cannot be found in a diplomatic affairs when I say it.
Okay.
The Israelis, what makes them unhappy? What makes the South Africans unhappy? The South Africans are saying, don't bomb what there. Okay,
Yes.
great. Israel comes to the table and said, okay, fine then. What is the solution? We keep this area here safe. Thank you very much. Do you withdraw your case? Yes, we pull it back. We go to court. Sorry, we're going to find a solution outside of this matter. Diplomatic relations. Everybody gets to win. Right?
Kustas, I don't know.
Win,
All right.
South Africa win and Palestinians win.
All right, Kustas and Midrand, I don't know. I don't know if South Africans want to see their government backtracking on that particular matter as well. But that brings an end to the open line. Thank you so much for your participation, your input, and all your very interesting insights.
This is the weekend.
702 brings you more than great conversation.
Expect soul,
Stories.
and sounds to match every moment.
Whether you're road tripping,
Hosting family, or stealing a quiet moment for yourself.
we've got the perfect soundtrack.
From Good Friday to Easter Monday, enjoy special holiday programming to keep you connected and entertained.
Join Kenny Maystreet from 10 to 2 and Pushaza Sibia from 2 to 6.
Richard Mwaba wraps up Saturday from 6 to 8.
On Sunday, Notemba Madumo will take you into the evening from 6 to 9.
Wherever you are this Easter,
702 is with you.
702. Let's walk the talk.
Having the right tech is a big step towards taking your business to the next level, and MTN is here to help. From reliable connectivity to cutting-edge digital tools, MTN provides the tech solutions that help your business succeed. Plus, as an MTN business customer, you'll also get special deals on data, voice, and even phone packages. So, visit an MTN store or mtnbusiness.co.za today and get everything you need to work smarter, not harder. Today, we make moves. MTN.
Does your insurer foot the bill when unscrupulous guests sneak away without paying? Are you reimbursed when air travel delays leave your coffers bare? Do they simply shrug when a resident of your fine establishment is too frisky with the faucet, sending tidal waves down the staircase? Or are you with Auto & General? Owners of guest houses, lodges and boutique hotels trust Auto & General with their hospitality insurance. For a quote, visit autogen.co.za or SMS business to 49025. Auto & General is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
My family's struggling with snotty noses and phlegmy coughs.
Oh no! Have you tried ACC?
ACC 600 is a convenient one-a-day effervescent tablet from 14 years of age, or now also in a no-water-needed, fruity-flavored sherbet-like granules that dissolve in your mouth. Ideal for the on-the-go adult. Ask for ACC 600 effervescent or oral powder at your nearest pharmacy to get rid of the snotties and flemings. And trust, if it doesn't say ACC, it's not ACC.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
Remember, still to come, we'll be in conversation with Helen Zille. She's the DA's Federal Council Chairperson. We'll chat GNU, get an update on that. 10:35, we'll speak to the CRL Commission. They're worried about the lack of proper oversight in the religious sector. They're worried about that as far as religious institutions are concerned. And of course, at between 11 and 12, we'll bring you Listener's Choice as well as the sharing space. But for now, though, it's 10 o'clock.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. Disaster management teams in KwaZulu-Natal remain on high alert as heavy rains continue in parts of the province. A level 5 weather warning for significant rainfall is in effect for the districts of eThekwini, Ilembe, Umgungundlovu, Ugu and Herigwala. KZN has been hit hard by heavy rains in recent months, with government declaring it a disaster-affected area. Cooperative Governance Department spokesperson Senzelwe Mzila.
The MEC for Kokta, Reverend Buthelezi, has assured residents that disaster management teams will continue to be on alert and monitor the weather conditions. The ongoing rainfall continues to pose a risk for the following impact: further flooding of roads and settlements, increased risk of damage to bridges, continued potential displacement of communities.
Investigations are continuing into a deadly shooting at Walter Sisulu University in the Eastern Cape. It's alleged students attacked a residence manager and his family at the Mthatha campus and torched his vehicle yesterday. The demonstrations allegedly led to the residence manager shooting at the protesters. The Higher Education and Training Ministry says one person was killed and 2 others injured. South African Student Congress President Alungile Kamche says the students were protesting over poor living conditions.
We've interacted though with our comrades, student leadership and the SRC. We've been informed that contrary to what the management may try to provide to the public as some kind of a cover-up, that the person deceased might not have been a student. The person deceased was, of course, fighting for conditions because that was indeed a student, according to the reports we've received from the Student Representative Council.
Accused number 2 in the Jocelyn Smith trial, Stefano van Ryn, is set to continue his testimony this morning in a trial within a trial. Legal teams are arguing for the court to decide whether confession statements made by van Ryn and Jacqueline Apollos can be used as evidence. Van Ryn, Apollos and Jocelyn's mother, Kelly Smith, face charges of kidnapping and human trafficking for the child's disappearance. Carlo Peterson reports.
Stefano van Ryn yesterday detailed how he was allegedly kidnapped and assaulted before being arrested in March last year. Van Ryn told the court he was on his way home from Vredenburg Magistrates Court when he was bundled into a bakkie by 2 men he believed were police officers. The accused says he was taken to Jacobsbaai Beach, where he was handcuffed before being beaten and questioned about Jocelyn's disappearance. Van Ryn is expected to tell the court about the alleged torture he experienced at the Sea Border offices when the trial within a trial resumes today. Carlo Peterson, Eyewitness News, Saldanha Bay.
The NPA is seeking to discredit the 1967 inquest, which found that former ANC Struggle Stalwart Chief Albert Luthuli died as a result of an accident. Yesterday, the KwaZulu-Natal High Court in Pietermaritzburg heard testimonies during the recently reopened inquest into Luthuli's death. Luthuli died at the age of 69, with the apartheid government saying he was knocked over by a train. Thabiso Goba has more.
As part of re-investigating Luthuli's death, Hawks detective Adolf Steyn also had to go look for old documents from the National Archive. Steyn submitted to court a letter written by Magistrate C.I. Boswell to the Secretary of Defense on the 11th of September 1967. The letter was written a week prior to Boswell presiding over the inquest into the death of Chief Albert Luthuli. State Prosecutor Ncedile Dunywa read some of the letter into record.
From the reports available at present, I do not expect the finding to be one other than accidental death.
Dunywa says it's clear there was a predetermined outcome before the inquest even began. Thabiso Goba, Eyewitness News.
And Chinese President Xi Jinping has met with Malaysia's king during a state visit as Beijing tries to position itself as a stable alternative to US President Donald Trump's harsh tariffs. Malaysia, Southeast Asia's third largest economy, was hit with a lower tariff of 24% by Trump, who has since put a 90-day pause on the levies on other countries. But he's reserved his heaviest blows for China, imposing additional 145% levies on many Chinese imports. China and Malaysia celebrated their 50th anniversary of diplomatic relations last year, and they enjoy robust trade ties. China has been Malaysia's largest trading partner for 16 consecutive years, with total trade between the two countries accounting for 16.8% of Malaysia's global trade last year. Gold is trading at $3,285.26 an ounce. The rand is at 19.02 to the dollar, 25.22 to the pound, 21.07 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $63.49 a barrel.
Heading into the Joburg CBD, you can still expect about a 30-minute delay. That's in the Amalgam area on Main Reef Road between Nasrec and the M2. And in Kempton Park, heading towards Pretoria, there's a slow-moving traffic, R21 northbound, from Atlas Road all the way to the R23 Benoni off-ramp.
A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng with scattered showers and thunder showers today. The temperatures will peak at highs between 22 and 25 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour: disaster management teams in KwaZulu-Natal remain on high alerts as heavy rains continue in parts of the province.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent.
For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
Tell us what we need to know.
702 listens.
702.
Live
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856
92.7
and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
10:06, the Clement Manyathela Show. Tshidi Madia standing in for Clement. He'll be back with you tomorrow. So over the past hour, we're speaking about Mcebisi Jonas, the special envoy to the US, and as well as this attitude that you see where governments, some of the provinces, only attend to issues when they know the president is going to be in town and only deal with them for a very short period of time and then abandon the work. Speaking about that particular bridge in the Eastern Cape, a lot of people saying that that actually is the case in so many places across the country, and that's a problem. This hour, though, we'll be in conversation with Helen Zille. She's the Federal Council Chair of the DA. Remember, the GNU are having lots of talks about what the way forward is. There's an attempt to reset the coalition. Maybe we'll finally see a formal coalition agreement put down. And at 10:30, we'll be in conversation with the CRL. The commission is worried about a lack of proper oversight across religious institutions. But for now, though, let's chat to Helen Zille.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
All right, we speak now to the DA's Federal Council Chairperson. Helen, good morning. She joins us now via Zoom. I haven't spoken to you. I think I last saw you at the IEC. How are you, Helen?
That's right, Tshidi. I'm well. I hope you are well too. It's lovely to be talking to you again and your listeners.
Very good. I'm in very good spirits. Let's speak about the GNU. I know that there was a big meeting that everybody kind of looked to over the last weekend, between the ANC and the DA. My expectation is that there'll be more talks, at least between the two, before a greater meeting with all the other parties. Where are the talks now between the DA and the ANC at the moment?
Well, we had a very frank discussion. It was cordial, but it was very frank, and both sides put their concerns on the table vis-a-vis the other side. So that was useful. It's a kind of regular clearing of the air that we need. And then we agreed, especially going forward, that the counterparts would have to meet much more regularly. That means the president and our leader, John Steenhuisen. That means the Secretary General of the ANC and myself. And so we can proceed because we each have different lanes and we each have different responsibilities, the various counterparts. And if we can keep the channels clear at that level, we should be able to resolve many problems before they become crises.
One of the things that the ANC was talking about in the lead up to the meeting was punitive measures, reading the DA the Right Act, in part because of a transgression of cabinet protocol, cabinet ethics. I did not in my head think that would go down well where you read a right act to another political party. That conversation about where the ANC feels the DA's ministers had stepped out of line, how did that go down? How was that received by the DA? And what does the DA now understand it needs to do as long as it remains in government?
Well, when the ANC says we have stepped out of line, we simply ask, where did we step out of line? I mean, if you look at who stepped out of line when we were negotiating as the main coalition partner with the ANC, the resolution on the budget impasse, they went out of line and went and started having talks with parties that were not in the government of national unity or the coalition. So that really is stepping out of line. It's not stepping out of line to have very direct and straightforward and sometimes even tough talks inside the government of national unity. That is normal for a coalition. What is abnormal is to go behind the back of the main coalition partner and then start trying to get a new majority outside of the GNU. In most countries in the world, that would bring down the coalition immediately. In fact, in every country in the world. But the ANC still thinks that it has the right, irrespective of whether it is in a coalition government or not, to do what it likes to get its own majority. So the ANC doesn't really know what the implications are of the statement of intent that it signed. And we reply to them and say, well, look, this is what the statement of intent requires you to do. This is what you haven't done. Now, who has stepped out of line?
But Helen, that's in reference to the ministers as far as cabinet's concerned. And I think what was being flagged, if I understand it correctly, would have been John Steenhuisen condemning the president, declaring Russia's Vladimir Putin a valuable ally and friend. I think it was about Sivukwa Khube not being present at the signing of the Bella Act into law. It was about D. Macpherson and his opposition to expropriation. That's what I think they flagged. It's those issues where they felt that the ministers who serve and at the behest of the president was seemingly in the public domain undermining his leadership and the government posture. It's that accusation of the DA being seen wanting to be in government and in opposition of the government while serving inside it.
Well, Tshidi, the statement of intent is very relevant here. We agreed that when we went into this government of national unity or coalition, we agreed that there would be no sealed mandates. We also agreed that all decisions would be taken on the basis of consensus, and if we couldn't reach consensus, we'd have sufficient consensus. Now, for the ANC unilaterally to formulate foreign policy and make statements that fundamentally oppose the DA's policy without any discussion, well, that's violating the statement of intent. And therefore, we have to say to them, but foreign affairs, international relations, there are no sealed mandates, none whatsoever. And therefore, the statement of intent comes into play. You can't pretend that international relations is a sealed mandate.
And then as far as
also the critical point is, yes, the president does appoint cabinet ministers, but there is an agreement that the DA has 6. And there is an equal agreement that John Steenhuisen gets to choose the DA 6. So there might be a constitutional provision for the president to choose cabinet ministers, but in a coalition, he's not free to choose any DA person he likes. He's only free to put into those positions the DA people that the DA puts forward to him. I hope that's clear.
Yes, that we understand. But Helen, I'm still going back to, and I know you're referring to the statement of intent. What they were flagging, if I understand correctly, is ministers who are serving in the president's cabinet seemingly acting as opposition to particular decisions. I understand, and I take your point around the statement of intent. I take that there are no sealed mandates. But the part where in the public's eyes it feels that there are ministers who oppose the direction, oppose the authority, undermine the authority of the president. That's what I thought was raised as an issue. Is that point not valid? You don't see that point?
Well, the thing is, it's not all about authority and status and public perception. It is about substance and reality. So, for example, if the president has not reached agreement with the DA on the signing of the Bella Act, as he's supposed to in terms of our agreement, then he can't expect the DA minister to go and be with him at the signing because he's violated the previous clauses that require agreement. So he can't expect us to go there and put on a show when the underlying substance isn't working.
Okay. The DA, as it stands today, Helen, is intent on staying in the government of national unity. You realize that it's still workable, it's still important to remain there.
No, we're not intent on remaining in the government of national unity. We will take decisions on a day-by-day basis. We have still several rounds to go in the fight against VAT, and we believe we've got a good chance of winning that fight. So you don't leave a government when there's a good chance that you could win. Not a guaranteed chance, obviously, but a good chance. And we've still got a few more very tough rounds to fight on the Expropriation Act, and we think we will win that too. So we're not going to abandon that fight midway. We are going to see it through to the end. But that doesn't mean to say that we are forever wedded to the GNU or the coalition. We will take decisions on a day-by-day basis. And if the ANC continues to violate the statement of intent, and if the ANC continues to refuse to share power with us, as they're supposed to do, then at another point we may take a totally different decision.
Does this then suggest that you are going to continue with the court matters on expropriation as well as budget. That's not going to change.
Yes.
Those who are asking you to withdraw
Yes,
are
absolutely.
incorrect.
We're going to continue. No, we're absolutely going to continue.
And just to speak about the way the DA's managed itself in these coalition talks, a lot of the small parties I've spoken to consistently complain about a DA that doesn't want to engage the smaller parties. I've asked some people in the DA and almost feels that it's inconsequential, that the DA thinks that they're inconsequential. But when I look at the GNU and the way it's formed, it's almost like everybody is actually not in a coalition with each other, but with the ANC. And I think that's part of the reason why a reset might be a necessity in order for the coalition to work well. But there's a view that the DA wants to continue with a big brother attitude and doesn't want to engage the others, that it isolates them. Just your reaction to that. Is it a misunderstanding, or is it actually a fact that you're not interested in speaking to smaller parties, that you think that they are inconsequential?
The thing is with the smaller parties is that they always, and the most recent examples are Gauteng and the Government of National Unity, they always side with the ANC. Always. And inevitably. And let me tell you why they do. Because the smaller parties in the cabinet, let me use the cabinet as an example, the national cabinet, they serve at the behest of Cyril Ramaphosa. The DA does not. The reason is that the DA has a large enough electoral mandate to be there on the will of the voters. And the voters who voted for the DA and the ANC can make up a majority in government. So if any of the other smaller parties want to be there, they have to please the president because they have no voter mandate to help make a majority. And so the president can kick them out if they do anything that displeases the president. So, of course, it's not surprising that they all side with the ANC the whole time. And that's why the people who voted for those smaller parties, who thought they were voting for opposition parties, have now found out that they weren't actually. They are voting for ANC proxies. And the problem is that we find that very, very difficult. Action SA went into the election with one message to voters. Quite a number of voters voted for them. I think gave them 6 seats in Parliament. And they used those 6 seats to prop up the president because they want a seat in the executive and they want to get a cabinet post. So we don't work like that because the voters gave us a big enough mandate to hold what is called the balance of power. And all voters for those smaller parties are taking votes away from the biggest opposition party and giving them to smaller parties who then support the ANC. And we've been saying that forever and ever. Now, when we entered the GNU, and I go back to the statement of intent because we've all agreed, and we agreed again this last weekend, that that was the founding document. That is the founding document. And clause 24 of that founding document says, after the signatures, which the DA and the ANC and the IFP, because they were a founding party, had signed, the admission of all other parties into the GNU had to be done by sufficient consensus in terms of clause 18 and 19. The ANC simply ignored that. They went on and signed the statement of intent with a whole lot of other smaller parties because they were precisely thinking of the kind of situation as with the budget when all the smaller parties went and voted for the fiscal framework with the VAT increase in it. So that's exactly what they were doing. They violated the statement of intent literally on day 2 to bring in other smaller parties. We could have broken up the Government of National Unity right then, but we decided to continue fighting and arguing that the ANC had to hold by the statement of intent. And they've been violating it on and on and on. And there will come a point where we say the ANC is not serious about this. And that is why we've got a bill before Parliament making coalition agreements justiciable and legally binding. That is what we have to do.
You've had so many red lines, Helen. You know, the one thing that's happened over the past few months, and it's interesting that you say you could have broken up the GNU from day 2 if you wanted. There's been so many red lines that we've seen the DA speak of and literally walk back on. What that makes me think about a little bit of is even now, Helen, to want to continue in a GNU where you feel unheard, unseen, is almost delaying the inevitable.
Tshidi, we definitely heard and we definitely seen. We have stopped the fiscal framework going ahead. We are going to stop expropriation without compensation in the Expropriation Act. We are definitely heard and we are definitely seen. And our place in the GNU is going to be determined by whether we can still be heard and seen and make a meaningful difference. Now, the most important thing we have to get right in this country is to grow the economy and to create more jobs. There's nothing to be proud of that for every taxpayer, there are 4 people who receive grants. That needs to be turned around if we want to become a viable society and a viable democracy. We have to have 1 person on a grant for every 4 people in a job. And that is the biggest change that we need in South Africa. And that is why we have to grow the economy. And that is why we have to have policies that enable economic growth. And that is the biggest fight we have to have. The reason we're fighting the Expropriation Act, which was one of our red lines and remains our red line that we have not walked back on, is because when you have a law that says people's property can be expropriated by a state official without compensation, you are going to have no international investment. It's just simple. And when you don't have international investment, you're not going to have economic growth and you're not going to have jobs. These things are obviously rational, and we have to make these points again and again and again. Equally with VAT. VAT is going to make poor people poorer. An increase in VAT is going to make poor people poorer. And that is why the DA is opposing it. We've got far too many poor and unemployed people in this country, and they have to be protected. But more than anything else, we have to have policies that grow the economy and get them into jobs.
Helen?
The only thing that we were bulldozed on was the Bella Act, which we were very angry about. But the Bella Act and the Expropriation Act and a couple of others come from the 6th Parliament.
Absolutely.
Every time the ANC needs our numbers now, we can use that leverage, except when the parties, the smaller parties, who promised to oppose the ANC when they went to the voters, quickly support the ANC to beat the DA. That's what they do all the time. And voters must now begin get it.
Helen, just very quickly, I'm supposed to be taking an ad break, but I can't, now that you speak about leverage, I can't leave without asking you, do you look back at the initial negotiations and think you actually blundered there? And I asked Dean McPherson this question before, and I said, you helped them elect a president, and now they can outmaneuver you, they can find other formations and other ways to make sure that the government stays intact, that you should have maybe thought about some of these issues that you put on the table now at that time. Do you look back and think you could have handled the negotiations differently?
Tshidi, if you look at the statement of intent, read it again. I'm sure you have read it before. Read it again. You will see that every single clause that we needed to get in, the proportionality clause, the sufficient consensus clause, the other parties joining the Government of National Unity clause, they're all there. We had 2 weeks to negotiate. In Germany, they negotiate for 6 months. Here, our constitution requires that we set up a new government in 2 weeks. There is no ways that we blundered. What we didn't realize was the ANC would simply ignore the statement of intent. Okay. Simply ignore it.
Okay, I'm going to take a quick break.
And by going outside, okay.
Let me take a quick break. I'm getting in trouble with Abel. I'm going to take a quick break and I'll come back to you. Just hold on.
Some people go all out for date night. We just go out to the driveway.
Exquisitely sculpted lines.
And an interior that could pass for a luxury penthouse.
Why go out when the classiest venue is already parked outside?
The new Haval Jolion Pro from $4,399 per month. Its effortless style steals every scene. Visit gwm.coza for T's and C's and to book a test drive. Go with more. Go with the new GWM Haval Jolion Pro.
Let's toast to Kumalo, Sitole and Associates.
Kumalo, that's me, a partner at the table. If I had it my way, I would have made it Kumalo, Sitole, Abo Baba Nabo Auntie, who helped with money for registration fees when I was short. And don't forget my grandfather, Umtungwa. He's usually in overalls, but today, uswenkile. They all worked hard to get me here. So kahle kahle, they really are partners in this business.
Experience the power of mutuality. In 2024, we allocated 5.6 billion rand in profit share to our graduate professional members, because at PPS, success is better shared. Learn more at pps.co.za. PPS is a licensed life insurer, controlling company and authorized FSP.
When using the road this Easter holiday,
please note that these are some of South Africa's high-risk roads. Ventertop Road in Northwest, R61 Tata in Eastern Cape, N2 Pongola in KwaZulu-Natal, R61 Mzamba in Eastern Cape, N2 Umkomas in Eastern Cape. Ensure that you, your loved ones, and all passengers arrive alive. This message is brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
Are you the owner of a hospitality business or do you rent out holiday accommodation? Share your holiday guest horror story now. WhatsApp 072-702-1702 and tune into 702 Afternoons with Glebogile Mabocha tomorrow from 1 p.m.
Join us.
Let's walk the talk.
This is 702.
10:26, it's almost past. I was in conversation with Helen Zille, the DS Federal Council Chairperson. I feel like 30 minutes with Helen is never enough. There are lots of voice notes and WhatsApps. I do see you all. I want to try to play at least one of your voice notes so that you don't say I ignored you and kept to alter myself.
Good morning, Tshidi. This is Jack from Amaskral. Regarding Helen's remarks there, they are the ones who came up with the phrase, you can't have your cake and eat it. So you are very right to say they must decide if they are going to be inside cabinet or leadership of Ramaphosa as a president. They must just toe the line as far as cabinet is concerned. They can have their own views outside of cabinet, but where they get it wrong is that they want to differ with cabinet and also want to retain their own originality in their own party, which is not a problem. But if they are outside of cabinet, then they are well within their right to think and act any way they like. So when ANC said they stepped out of line, they really did step out of line. And whatever they think the ANC should or should not do also applies to them because they are a junior partner in this relationship by virtue of their own choice. This is Jack from Hammanskraal.
Thank you so much, Jack from Hammanskraal. Helen, do you want to give Jack a response quickly?
Yes, thank you very much, Jack, and thanks for phoning in and putting your points so articulately. Let me say that you speak from the point of departure that the ANC as the bigger party is still the boss. That is not true. The ANC can't govern without the DA. And or the other the far left-wing parties, which we don't want in government, because that will destroy the economy, and then we'll have an unemployment rate of 60%. But the DA is there to speak up for DA voters. We are there to speak up for the people who voted for us. We do that in cabinet, we do that in parliament, we do that in the government, we do that everywhere, because that is why our voters put us there. And that is what we have to continue to do. And we do that everywhere and all the time. And because there is a coalition government, and because we are in government, the decisions of the coalition government must find a consensus between the DA and the ANC's position. Now, obviously, we know that we are the smaller partner in this government, and we can't have everything our way. But we've got to have some things that go towards us. It's not the ANC instructs and we abide. It does not work like that in a coalition government.
All right, Helen, please hang in there. It is almost past. I want to take a slight break again. If you're willing to indulge me to stick around, just want to pick at one or two other things with you before I let you go. We're going to go to a quick break for headlines, and then we can come back. Can you stick around for a little bit, Helen?
Yes, I can, but I've got somebody delivering something to my house, and my husband's having to deal with it at the moment, so he's not happy. So I'll quickly go out.
Go deal with that while we take headlines, and then you can come back. Thank you.
Thanks, Tshidi. Good morning. Classes remain suspended at the Walter Sisulu University in the Eastern Cape following a deadly protest. Students were protesting over poor living conditions at Mthatha campus yesterday. One person was shot dead and two others injured when a residence manager opened fire. The Constitutional Court has dismissed an application by the MK party and its parliamentary leader, John Hlophe, to challenge an interim interdict which has prevented him from serving on the Judicial Service Commission. The Apex Court says no case has been made for a direct appeal. However, since that interdict was granted last September, the Western Cape High Court has heard main arguments in the case brought by the DA and Freedom Under Law about Hlophe's suitability to serve on the body that interviews candidates to become judges. And the UK Supreme Court is set to deliver a judgment on the legal definition of a woman. The announcement follows a legal challenge by women's rights campaigners who challenged the Scottish Government's interpretation of anti-discrimination legislation, which applies to England, Scotland and Wales. And those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 11 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage, if you're in the Four Ways area, there's slow-moving traffic on Winnie Mandela Drive between Broad Acres Drive and Uranium. There's also slow-moving traffic that's heading into the Joburg CBD amalgam. Expect about a 30-minute delay on Main Reef Road between Nasrec and the M2. Kempton Park heading towards Pretoria. Traffic is sluggish. R21 northbound between Atlas Road and the R23 Benoni off-ramp. Look out for those faulty traffic lights in Alex at Marlborough Drive and Far East Bank. Traffic lights also not working in Rand Park Ridge at Bayers Nordia and the N1 North. If you come across any other traffic issues, please SMS us on 31702. We are also on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app. The Midday Report.
Weekdays,
12 to 1.
You're still in your office and working, Minister?
I'm not sure what the alternative is. I'm here to do a job, and I think we are starting to really see momentum in this space now.
I imagine you need human beings to actually operate these drones. Do we have sufficient capacity?
So in terms of the procurement of these devices, the training is included in the package. The partnership with the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform is also continuing. So it's really exciting, and people will start seeing these devices in action at the border posts.
Dr. Leon Schreiber.
The Midday Report
with Mandy Wiener.
12 to 1 on 702.
702.
The Emirates Lions are back at Emirates Airline Park for the rest of the remaining 4 Vodacom United Rugby Champion fixtures. Let's do it for the city and get behind the Lions as they prepare to face Italian side Benetton this Saturday, the 19th of April at Emirates Airline Park. It's more than just rugby. It's a fun-filled day out with family and friends. Kick off at 13:45 p.m. Tickets available at ticketpros.co.za or at the Emirates Airline Park tickets office. See you there.
In just 10 years, over 850 million winners have shared more than 31 billion rand with the National Lottery. That's not a dream, that's real money, won by real people, right here in Mzansi. So the question is, why not you? The next winner could come from your hometown. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Handa, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old or play responsibly. E2 is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Have you filed your business tax return?
Joe. With My Way Business Insurance, I get My Business Assist, which gives me loads of benefits. They assist in filing my taxes, so no long queues. Plus, I get tender notifications, marketing services, and more to help me elevate my hustle.
They do what?
Yeah, bo. Thanks to My Way, now I have time to focus on the real deal, which is growing my business.
Move to My Way Business Insurance today and get covered to do business your way. Visit myway.co.za for a quote. My Business Assist is a value-added product. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's apply.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
10:34, Clement Manyathela Show, Tshidi Madia in for Clement. We're in conversation. I'm trying to mop up, squeezing the last few minutes with Helen Zille, the DA's Federal Council Chairperson. I've asked her to stick around for a little bit. Helen, I just want to also speak about from the DA, from an internal perspective, because there is still a difference of opinion from my reading about whether or not it serves the DA best to be in the GNU or to be outside of the GNU. How is managing that, particularly when tensions are heightened, as we saw them quite recently over the budget?
Well, the DA has structures and systems that debate these issues and draw a conclusion, and then everybody abides by them. I've noticed that is a fundamental cultural difference between our two organizations, the DA and the ANC. In the DA, if there is a question, should we stay or should we leave, we call a federal executive. We debate the issue from all sides. Everyone is free to air their views and make proposals. We have a motion at the end. People either support or reject it, and whichever way we go, everybody abides by it. That's how we work. I've noticed the ANC doesn't work that way. They don't like putting a clear question on an agenda for decision at the National Working Committee or at the NEC. They kind of let everybody talk but never take a decision, and certainly never a decision that is written down and signed and sealed and delivered. That is a fundamental way that we differ in our internal cultures. And in the DA, we take decisions, and every time we call a FedEx, which is every time we have to take a major decision around the GNU, we have a debate, and often that debate revolves around should we stay or should we leave.
Do you read what's been happening around the GNU talks between the ANC and the DA, the NWC and your own FedEx as an attempt to create an environment for constructive dismissal for the DA? Is that how the DA is reading it?
Well, I mean, there are definitely people in the ANC who want to constructively dismiss us. They want us to leave on our own accord because they know what will happen to the economy. The rand will go to 25 rand to the dollar. A lot of international investment will pull out literally overnight, and the economy will really seriously tank. So they don't want to take responsibility for that, especially not in the international climate now, where South Africa is being punished hard by some of the major powers in the world. They don't want to be responsible for making that worse, for losing, for example, all our citrus exports, etc., etc., etc. So they want us out, but they don't want to be seen to kick us out. Now, that's not everybody in the ANC. That's a part of the ANC, under Paul Mashatile and Gwedi Mantashe, etc. So they're very divided. But unlike the DA, they don't have these discussions openly, put a motion on the table, and take a decision. They work very, very differently.
I'm glad you mentioned Paul Mashatile, because my reading has been that the DA seems to have pointed out the deputy president as a target, as a person that they seem to think has a problem with the GNU. It's quite consistent, that view from the DA.
Well, it's not as if the DA is pointing him out. He's pointing himself out. I mean, he went to, I think, some SACP conference and was dancing around on the stage singing, "I see you funi GNU." We don't want the GNU. So, I mean, that comes from his own mouth.
Talking about.
I see you funi GNU.
No, I know what you're talking about. Was it the special congress last year?
Tshidi.
I'm not Xhosa speaking, so I can't help you. Listen, this before again, I'm trying to wrap up very quickly. Hold on, I'm trying to wrap up quickly. The DA went to the US. We've seen AfriForum making the same trips as well as Solidarity. There's an issue where, on paper, while one is a fringe group, one is a legitimate political party that's serving in our government, seem to be very much aligned on race-based policy issues. Yet you are in a coalition where those matter. Part of redress, part of getting South Africa to work is in part dealing with the race issue. There are policies that parties that are in the GNU are in favor of retaining and sharpening and making sure that they work better. How do you navigate also that, where the DA again is acting outside of where the greater view is? And that will speak to consensus, and not just between the DA and the ANC and the IFP, but the broader GNU with all the other parties there.
Tshidi, I think you invent things. We went to the United States to say to Donald Trump, if you do not like the ANC, and if you do not like Dubuli Bunu and things like that, please don't punish ordinary South Africans. Please do not take us out of AGOA. That'll cost us hundreds of thousands of jobs. Please don't slap on a 30% tariff on our exports, because that will cost us 300,000 jobs in agriculture. Please do not punish the people if you don't like what the ANC and the EFF are doing. That's what we went to say in America.
I'm looking at that statement now where you do speak about race-based policies, but I'm going to leave it there. I'm definitely out of time. Thank you so much for your time.
Well,
Helen, you have a Congress.
Growth,
you have a Congress. Hold on. You have a Congress next year. Are you coming back or are you done?
I don't know. I don't know.
Are you interested in continuing to serve or are you not?
I'm definitely going to work till the day I drop dead. So bad luck to all of the people who want me out of the way.
So
but what I'm going to do, I don't know.
So that's definitely coming back.
Are you going to come and roast me, Tshidi?
Am I?
Are you going to come and roast me, Tshidi?
Oh my goodness, you're going to be part of that roast. No, I'm definitely not. I'm giving that a skip.
Please come and roast me.
No, I'm giving it a skip, Helen.
People are too scared to come. People are too scared to come and roast me.
You know I'm not scared of you, but I'm not participating. Thank you so much, Helen. That's Helen Zille.
Yika, man. Yika.
Don't dare me. That's Helen Zille from the DA. She's the DA's Federal Council Chairperson, speaking to us there about the GNU.
This is the weekend.
702 brings you more than great conversation.
Expect soul,
Stories,
and sounds to match every moment.
whether you're road tripping,
Hosting family, or stealing a quiet moment for yourself.
we've got the perfect soundtrack.
From Good Friday to Easter Monday, enjoy special holiday programming to keep you connected and entertained.
Join Kenny Maystreet from 10 to 2 and Pushaza Sibia from 2 to 6.
Richard Mwaba wraps up Saturday from 6 to 8.
On Sunday, Notemba Madumo will take you into the evening from 6 to 9.
Wherever you are this Easter,
702 is with you.
702. Let's walk the talk.
When last did you shop around for a real deal on your car insurance? Switch to Outsurance and you could save big every month. Gordon, a 44-year-old man, is a real Outsurance client who saves a mind-boggling 2,794 Rand a month on his 2019 Ford Everest 2-liter automatic. Isn't it time you got the real deal? Don't pay more. Switch and save today. SMS out to 45142. That's out to 45142. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Cashbuild has paved the way for everyone dreaming of renovating or building their own home, offering building plans to help you get started. And we've partnered with Capitec to provide home improvement finance options that fit your budget. Visit your nearest Cashbuild today and let us help you build the home you've always wanted. Cashbuild, quality building materials, tools, paint, and hardware at the lowest prices.
Mitsumania is here, and it's bigger than ever. For a limited time only, experience unbeatable deals on the Mitsubishi Outlander, Eclipse Cross, and Triton. For a limited time, you can get up to 90,000 Rand on deal assistance. Adventure, performance, style, whatever you're after, we've got it at a price that'll blow you away. But hurry, these deals won't last. Visit your nearest Mitsubishi dealership now, before time runs out. Mitsubishi Motors, drive your ambition.
Join us.
Let's walk the talk.
This is 702.
10:43, the Clement Manyathela Show. We move on now to this conversation. I don't know if you've paid attention, but a lot of talk has been happening over the past few days, I think, about the Cultural, Religious and Linguistics Rights Commission. The CRL is worried about the lack of oversight, proper oversight, from my understanding, across the religious sector in religious institutions. The CRL has set up a committee that will comprise of religious leaders to look into ongoing abuses in churches, from my understanding, through an investigation where they were conducting hearings into the commercialization of religion and abuse of people's belief systems. They were inundated with complaints about abuse, and this has kind of given rise to a different committee that's now being set up to try and look into these issues and to try and answer the question of oversight. What are your experiences as well? Do you think, when you look at the religious sector, when you look at religion in our country, that it does need better measures, better regulation as far as oversight is concerned? How do we manage that? I'm in conversation now with Prince George Mahlangu, who's the Deputy Chairperson of the CRL Commission. Good morning. Welcome to Radio 702.
Good morning, Tshidi, and good morning to all your listeners.
Let's speak about what necessitated this committee that's now being set up. What kind of stories were you hearing? What kind of complaints were you hearing that's led the CRL to be aware and to realize that we need to maybe sit down and investigate what else ought to be done, and particularly around the role of oversight in the religious community?
I think let me briefly just give the context of where this committee comes from. It arises as a result of our report on the commercialization of religion, wherein we held hearings, and out of that there was a report. One of the recommendations is that we should set up some form of a peer review mechanism to ensure that religious leaders, and I'm emphasizing because there is a lot of disinformation in this regard. We are not calling, or this committee is not going to come up with a regulation of religion. It is more to look at religious leaders' conduct or transgression. So this Section 22 committee is established to ensure that they will look at mechanisms that are required in order to deal with these issues that we've unearthed in our report. It will develop strategies to deal and curb spiritual transgressions, and it will come up with recommendations for a legal or a legislated framework aimed at promoting peer review mechanism in the religious sector, specifically the Christian sector. You will know, Tshidi, that in every profession, you have bodies that regulate the conduct of those professionals in those, and you can look at the medical doctors. They are governed by the Health Practitioners Council, journalists, and literally in every profession you will have this kind of regulatory framework that governs the conduct of these religious leaders. So we are setting up this committee to come up with the way forward and the recommendations towards this legal or legislated framework for this peer review mechanism.
Speak to me about spiritual transgressions. What kind of reports are you getting in terms of those abuses, those issues that were concerning? What stories are you being told?
We've been told many stories, but amongst those that would be easily remembered by your listeners is where congregants are made to drink petrol, to eat snakes, to eat grass, but the more severe ones are the rape of congregants themselves, where there's sexual abuse and sexual assault and such things. These are issues and complaints that we continually deal with, that as the CRLS Commission are engaged in trying to find or minimize these transgressions by way of setting up this committee that will say if a religious leader has transgressed, it will be that body that will say you cannot practice pending the outcome of your court case or inquiry. It is for that reason that we want to ensure that this committee is set up and it comes up with those recommendations that will help in dealing with these religious transgressions in the same way that any other profession would do.
How widespread is it? Because I think part of the difficulty in managing something like the religious space is that somebody can just wake up tomorrow and say, I've got the gift, I'm a prophet, and start a church. Anyone can. So how widespread is the issue? And I also wonder how would you rein it in, considering how easy it is to randomly start a church?
We hope, first of all, I must indicate that it is not all religious leaders or all churches in this instance, but some. But the impact of those transgressions are enormous in terms of when you start looking at having to look at protecting the believers themselves. But we are saying we hope that when this Section 22 committee has concluded its work and has put recommendations, part of those recommendations would say that if you want to set up a church, first of all, it must be registered to some body or to a body that is governed by the sector itself. Number two, if you want to be a priest or a reverend or a pastor or a bishop or even a cardinal, you must have gone through a college of some kind where you are then certificated, to say that you've gone through this course. You must be vetted. If you are going to deal with children, you must know churches are sacred places. we often send our children because we know it is the church and it should be a safe place to be. But you don't know, as you indicate, that anyone can set up a church. You don't know if that person has been was arrested for sexual violence or in terms of the Child Protection Act has violated some of the Children's Act provisions. So you want to ensure that any person that sets up a church, that church is properly registered, that religious leader is properly trained and is and by that I mean through the structures that religious leaders themselves would have set up.
And then resistance, are you not worried about those who sees this as a move to dictate how people practice and express their religion and their belief systems? There are people who might see this as a pathway towards trying to put in strict measures, and that for them is something that hampers their freedom. You're not worried about that?
It is for this reason that we have established this Section 22 committee, and we have asked Reverend Professor Musakulu to be the chairperson of this committee. It will be comprised of various religious leaders from various umbrella bodies in the Christian sector. So this committee will be led by religious leaders themselves, not the CRL the commissioners. So the role that we will play as the CRL, right, is to be an enabler to ensure that this committee can do its work. Amongst others is to consult nationally and provincially on these issues, on these matters. So there's a lot of work around that. Is to conduct research around the world as well as here in South Africa around these issues that we are talking about. So as the CRL, we will merely be the secretariat of this committee, and it will be entirely led by religious leaders. And within a month, we will be informing the country about the leaders that will form part of this Section 22 committee to join the Reverend Musakulu. So it will not be a CRL issue. We are mandated and obligated by the Constitution to set up this committee so that we look at the conduct of religious leaders
To help
in
the
this
sector
context.
itself.
Yes.
For just for the listeners, if you've got a question, and you want to also share your thoughts about whether or not there's sufficient oversight over religious institutions, do they lack it? Should we be doing more? Please feel free to call in or to send a voice note. The number is 011 883 0702 072 702 1702. Prince George, how much time is allocated for this? Is there a time that's set up already where we know the investigations will be thorough and then we can come back and say, this is what we found and this is what the way forward should be?
We've allocated a year for the committee to come up with the recommendations, but we understand that the level of consultation might perhaps require more time than what we have planned, but we will allow the committee, when they first sit, to determine the timelines and the program that they would like to undertake. But we've made a provision for a year, and within that year that the committee will provide us in the country with a report with recommendations of how to come up with a framework to do oversight on religious leaders.
And just briefly, what would the CRL say to people who say, while this work is going on, they are looking for avenues to speak about abuses, about concerns they have about their churches? Where do they go? Do they reach out to the committee while it's doing consultations? Are there other avenues that you'll suggest that they go to speak beyond police authorities and the likes?
The committee will specifically be looking at the future, the oversight modality or the oversight model that need to be put in place. In terms of complaints that community members may have, it is still with the CRL. We have a section that deals with these complaints where we will still be investigating those complaints. So these are two parallel processes that do different things. I think members of the community can still contact the CRL to formally lay complaints, but it's not only members. We as the CRL, we are also empowered by the Act, by our Act, to intervene and to summon people where we hear or see of transgressions that are taking place. So it's not only dependent on people laying complaints. So that process still stands and it's still going on, and we will deal with those complaints as they arise.
All right, I've got Michael on the line from Vosloorus who's got a question for you. Michael, good morning.
Good morning, Tshidi, and to the guest there. Look, sir, you say that there is going to be a committee that is going to.
I don't know what's going on.
I want to understand how much then the people that are going to be sitting in this committee, how much do they know about different churches' doctrine, and will they not be impeding upon the doctrine of the churches, which they were.
It's okay, Michael. I don't know what's going on with Michael, but I think I got the gist of his question. Michael asking about the different religious doctrines and whether or not they're impeding on the rights. Prince George, it's literally what I was asking you earlier on, is that there will be resistance. People will view this as an attempt to undermine the freedoms they have to practice their spirituality, even though you say it's a peer review mechanism. There will be resistance, and I think Michael's emotions there were getting in the way, and you can hear he was getting heated.
Yes, and I think that when you sit with a pastor raping a 14-year-old, when you sit with a religious leader giving people grass to eat, making people to eat grass, then you will understand that we have an obligation to do something. What we are saying is that this committee will be comprised of various Christian religious leaders across the different sectors and umbrella bodies. We've consulted widely before we established this committee. So it will be prominent religious leaders that are concerned themselves about the conduct of some of these religious leaders that do these wrong things.
All right.
But I think that over time, the public will appreciate the work that this committee will deliver.
All right, agreed. Thank you so much. That's Prince George Mahlangu, the Deputy Chairperson of the Cultural, Religious and Linguistics Rights Commission.
Running a small business doesn't mean you face small problems. That's why you need Smart SME by Santam. It's tailor-made insurance built for small businesses. Even you, the plumber whose vehicle becomes a food truck on weekends, or you, the beautician, wearing many hats. We cover the all in small business. Visit santam.co.za or SMS Smart SME to 34852 to get a quote. Santam, this is freedom. Santam is an authorized FSP, a licensed non-life insurer and controlling company for its group companies.
Why settle for average when you can upgrade awesome intelligence with the new Galaxy A26? Want to find a song? Simply hum or sing the melody and allow the AI circle to search to do the rest. Take your mobile photography to the next level with the AI triple camera, boasting a 50 megapixel autofocus to capture high quality moments. Plus, you get storage expandability of up to 2 terabytes. Galaxy A26. Awesome intelligence is here.
This Eyewitness News is brought to you by cars.coza and at cars.co.za. Find what moves you. Here's the news.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. Classes remain suspended at the Walter Sisulu University in the Eastern Cape following a deadly protest. Students were protesting over poor living conditions at the Mthatha campus yesterday. One person was shot dead and 2 others injured when a residence manager opened fire at the protesters. It's alleged students attacked the man and his family and torched his vehicle. Nhlanhla Mabaso has more.
Calm has been restored on campus following yesterday's disruptive scenes. Students are carrying their bags in the rainy weather, leaving the institution as they wait to hear when classes will resume. Some say they are leaving because of the protest, while others are going home for the Easter holidays. Students say they want to support the family of the deceased person, whom the institution says was not a registered student. SRC President Balungile Madigizela.
Our priority would be to communicate with the family. So I think decisions like that will then follow afterward to say, then what is the way forward? In the interim, we just made sure that academic activities are suspended until further notice.
Although there was visible police yesterday, none of them have been spotted near campus today. The institution's main gate also has no security. Nhlanhla Mabaso, Eyewitness News, Mthatha in the Eastern Cape.
Staying in the Eastern Cape, residents of KwaNobuhle Township say they are fed up with government's false promises after failure to fix a collapsed bridge within the prescribed time frame. It's been almost a year since the Matanzima Bridge collapsed due to heavy rainfall and soil erosion, but the Nelson Mandela Bay municipality is yet to fix it. The bridge is the only route connecting KwaNobuhle to the rest of Gqeberha. Motorists and taxis have had to use a gravel detour that goes around the collapsed bridge to access the township. Alfara Mushwana has more from the Eastern Cape.
They were starting to work here when the president arrived. But sooner did the president leave, did these people stop work on this bridge.
That was the voice of a frustrated community member who feels the Nelson Mandela Bay municipality has become synonymous with broken promises. He says the municipality may not fully grasp the impact that the collapsed bridge has had on the daily lives of residents.
We had students who were supposed to write their national exams that didn't write their national exams. We had community members who were up for job interviews. They didn't go for those job interviews. So you can see the overall impact that the bridge is having.
The Nelson Mandela Bay municipality had initially pledged to begin repair work by the end of last year. Instead, it now claims that repairs will only commence next month. Alpha Ramshwana, Eyewitness News, KwaNobuhle in the Eastern Cape.
The Constitutional Court has dismissed an application by the MK party and its parliamentary leader, John Hlophe, to challenge an interim interdict which has prevented him from serving on the Judicial Service Commission. The Apex Court says no case has been made for a direct appeal. However, since that interdict was granted last September, the Western Cape High Court has heard main arguments in the case brought by the DA and Freedom Underlaw about Hlophe's suitability to serve on the body that interviews candidates to becoming judges. Lindsay Dentlinger reports.
Last year, 3 separate cases were lodged in the Western Cape High Court to urgently stop former Western Cape High Court Judge President John Hlophe from taking up a seat as a parliamentarian on the Judicial Service Commission. They argued that as an impeached judge, he's unsuitable to sit on the body that recommended his impeachment to Parliament last year, just months before he became an MP. In December, the High Court dismissed an application for leave to appeal against the interim order, prompting Hlophe to head straight to the Constitutional Court. In February, the High Court heard the complainant's Part B application, in which they gave the court their reasons why they believe Parliament erred in approving his nomination. Judgment in that matter is still awaited. While the Constitutional Court yesterday accepted the delay in bringing the matter, it said no case had been made for a direct appeal. The court has dismissed the application with costs. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News.
And the UK Supreme Court is set to deliver a judgment on the legal definition of a woman. The announcement follows a legal challenge by women's rights campaigners who challenged the Scottish Government's interpretation of anti-discrimination legislation, which applies to England, Scotland and Wales. The Scottish Government argues transgender people with a gender recognition certificate are entitled to sex-based protections, while for Women Scotland argues they only apply to people that are born female. The landmark ruling will be read before noon today. Gold's trading at $3,000. $1,285.26 an ounce. The rand is at 19.02 to the dollar, 25.22 to the pound, 21.07 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $63.49 a barrel.
Leaving Rivoli heading towards the Joburg CBD, you can still expect about a 30-minute delay. That's in the Amalgam area on Main Reef Road between Nasrick and the M2. And in four ways, there's still bumper-to-bumper traffic on Winnie Mandela Drive between Uranium and Broadacres Drive.
A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng with scattered showers and thunder showers. The temperatures will peak at highs between 22 and 25 degrees. The breaking story in EWN this hour, veteran actor Don Mlangeni has died.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
Hey Jim, what's wrong? Hi Bob, I'm just so confused. I'm trying to buy a car and I don't know where to stop. Well, have you tried to... Cars.coza. Have you tried to... Cars.coza. Sorry, we're trying to do an advert.
Whatever car you want to buy or sell, cut through the and just go to cars.coza and let's find what moves you. Cars.coza.
Let's talk.
We're listening. 702.
Live.
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7.
And 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
7 minutes past 11. It's the third and final hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. Tshidi Madia standing in for Clement. Very sad news coming out there in that news bulletin there by Sfiso, that eyewitness news bulletin. News of the passing of Ntate Don Mlangeni Nawa. You know, I just thought, didn't he play La Casa? I don't remember the language properly at the time or the series, but I do know him as La Casa, I think. And of course, the beloved Zeb Matabane. I think everywhere where you saw him, I've seen him in so many productions, even some of Patima Kwarala's work. A treat, a talent, really. A statement from the family saying that, you know, it's with deep heartbreak that we share the passing of our beloved father, Don Mlangeni Nawa, on the 16th of April, 2025. He was the heart of our family, a loving father, brother, and friend to the world. He was a gifted and respected actor whose presence lit up every stage and screen he graced. His legacy lives on in the lives he touched, the stories he told, and the love he gave so freely. We're deeply moved by the outpouring of love and support and kindly ask for privacy as we grieve his immense loss. Of course, they speak about the details. That's the Nawa family. But Don Mlangeni Nawa, an institution. When you think about some of the actors that we have, we've lost so much, and I definitely feel this loss as well. Our condolences to Don Mlangeni Nawa's family and his friends.
Join us.
Let's walk the talk.
This is 702.
When I get into a conversation now about envoys, we've been speaking so much about a special envoy, of course, on the back of the news coming out yesterday from the Union buildings that President Cyril Ramaphosa has appointed, it was on Monday, I think, Mcebisi Jonas as a special envoy to the US. His job, from my understanding, is to help mend ties. But what does it mean? There was a lot of confusion where some people think, does it mean that this is not the ambassador? Does he replace Ibrahim Rasool? Does he work alongside him? What does it mean? What are his responsibilities? Is he expected to move to the US? So we're going to try and make sense of all of that. I'm joined now on the line by Professor David Munyayi, Associate Professor of Political Science and International Relations at the University of Johannesburg. Professor, good morning. Welcome to Radio 702.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, the term special envoy every now and again makes it into our lexicon, becomes part of a big narrative. We get a little bit confused, but I don't think we have a full understanding of what it means. So one of our listeners has asked for us to do a breakdown, really, of what it means. What is the role, actually, of a special envoy? If you can maybe help us understand the term in and of itself and what a special envoy's task is to do.
Special envoy, like ambassador, represent the country. They are more or less the same, but they differ slightly. Special envoy is appointed on an ad hoc, on a special task to handle a specific issue or few issues, in this case, to reset the U.S.-South Africa relation, to unblock, so to speak, whatever hurdles along the way, and speaking to particular stakeholders within the U.S. and allow conversation to continue and ease the relationship, given the ongoing tension. However, an ambassador is different because ambassador will have accreditation, simply put, being accepted by the head of state, representing the head of state. And that's why an ambassador is called His Excellency. It's not the ambassador, it's the extension of the president, the credentials of the president in a foreign government, and governed by the Geneva Convention. While a special envoy as a ad hoc does not necessarily have to stay in the U.S., might have a special passport as an ambassador, but does not really have to have a special visa to work in that country and accept it and stay in an embassy, as well as deal with the more formal channels, with the protocols that involve an ambassador handling a whole list of issues under the sun. However, a special envoy will deal with specific issues in and out, and so that's the difference. But both represent the president.
What kind of situations call for the appointment of envoys, and how do you differentiate between the different kinds of envoys that are sent out, and where do they go? Do they all just do you get appointed as special envoy specifically to go deal with another country, another president specifically? I'm trying to figure out also what kind of situation, I think that's the heart of it, necessitates the appointment of a special envoy.
The special envoy, for instance, let's use the Great Lake region, Rwanda, Burundi, or DRC and the like. South Africa has had special envoys. At some point, it was Ambassador Welile Nhlapo, for instance. The special envoy will then deal with these multi-countries. You get into and try to have a sense of that region representing the president. There's also an element of a special personal relationship between a special envoy and the president, not necessarily getting bogged down into the bureaucracy of foreign affairs and the channels and protocols that I had mentioned. But yes, work closely with foreign affairs ministry, but at a very high level. And therefore, when a special envoy is received by a foreign government or president, in this instance, President Trump, doesn't have to go the formalities, and there's an understanding that he's speaking on behalf of the president. The ambassador does the same, but in a different way, and it takes time to appoint, accept it, and work through those channels and embassies as we have in this country.
How are special envoys received generally? I mean, one of the big questions, again, I can only speak now of Mcebisi Jonas because it's a big talking point at the moment, is how he'll be received, what kind of reception awaits in the US. Is there formal reception, or does he quietly enter and go meet with the people that he wants to meet with, the different parties that he wants to engage with, to try help win South Africa some sort of favor? Or is there a formal reception that is expected, which is something what would expect if a minister's traveling or even an ambassador?
I think he'll be given, depending on the passport he uses. I mean, in this sense, I think he'll use a diplomatic passport, which means a special entry into a country. But I do not think he'll have, motorcade and the protocol of an ambassador. However, respected, representing a head of state, and normally is judged more on the president. He's bringing a message from a president, less so on him or her, and therefore, in the case of Mr. Jonas, I think it will be he'll be judged more in the fact that he's representing President Ramaphosa.
How effective are special envoys? I mean, his task is quite mammoth, but I also think about the South Sudan. If I'm correct, it is Deputy President Paul Mashatile who also plays that role. Perhaps let me take a step back, Professor. Sorry, let me take a step back. Even those who are serving as ministers from a president can represent envoys, correct?
Yeah, a person, a special envoy could be someone from government structures, but most of the time is someone outside. And in this case, business person from the political party, a religious leader, or any other person, or a professor, any person of high standing in society can be the wishes of the president. But what the requirements, the ability of that person to have networks, understanding the workings of that particular country or region, and the ability to speak and fully convey, firstly, the message of the president, and also persuasive in a situation where there's tension, speaking to different constituencies in the U.S. in this instance, ability to sell South Africa and the president's message, opening up for negotiations and understanding clearly, for instance, South Africa and U.S., in what areas can South Africa compromise to unease the tension, in what areas South Africa won't compromise in terms of foreign policy principles. So those are kind of issues that he's expected to be playing in the U.S.
Even though I think an ambassador has, it sounds to me that there's more stringent measures or parameters to operate within. And even though you've said that the envoys, like the ambassador, are extensions in essence of the president, in terms of the will and the ability to make decisions, to be more independent in functioning, do they have that? Do they have more freedom to make decisions and to act? Or also, are they also held to strict regulations and expectations? Because at the heart of it, you do represent a president and a particular sovereign nation.
The envoy won't be restricted with certain protocols. For instance, not allowed to speak any place, communicating, a certain way of handling government-to-government relation. An envoy is much more free. Yes, will behave in a much more diplomatic way, but is much more free and represent more directly the president without necessarily going through your foreign affairs or the embassy, or making everything that the ambassador does. I mean, the embassy officials have to be there, protection, and then ensure that he's, or have a lot of people in the room. So I think he will have indirect personal, and he can report directly to the president or a minister without necessarily going through this heavy bureaucratic paperwork that normally diplomats handle.
And how effective are envoys usually in helping to deal with sticking issues, in resolving conflicts and building diplomatic ties? How useful are they? How effective is that intervention?
Oh, they can be extremely useful. If, for instance, if there's a special envoy coming to South Africa, you'll expect that person to meet, for instance, the ANC, to meet the civil society, to understand issues, speaking to scholars, and speaking to a number of other people outside government, in government, and also to be able to speak directly, given channels directly to the president, given the fact that we'll have certain message from President Ramaphosa in his case. So it really depends, and therefore the person has to be, I think, be clear, articulate, and be able to understand those dynamics in any given situation.
If you are listening and you've got questions for Professor Manyai, please feel free to call in or to send a voice note. What do you understand? What are you curious about with the role of special envoys? The numbers 011 883 0702. You can send a voice note or a question to him on 072 702 1702. The South African example of envoys, which ones have we had that have been particularly successful, be it in dealing with issues on the continent or more broadly in the geopolitical space?
Yeah, since 1994, I think we've had a number of envoys sent to so many places. I've already mentioned former South African ambassador to United States, Ambassador Welly Lenhlapo, Professor Tshidi Madia, for instance, into Great Lake region. And given the role that South Africa played in the Great Lake region, Burundi dealing with the DRC crisis, and therefore I think these envoys were able to speak to different stakeholders to ensure that you maintain peace in the Great Lake region and represent the president in those instances. Both President Mbeki as well as President Zuma have had special envoys in so many places.
And then those that are here at the moment, are there any at the moment operating in South Africa trying to work on relations between us and other state players?
Offhand, I don't know of any, but there are a number of special envoys that come in and go. They don't necessarily have to stay in the country. I think the EU will deploy special envoys coming to discuss issues of climate change, for instance. We'll be hosting the G20, for instance. There'll be different special envoys from different countries, try to have a sense, also an input in and protecting the interests of their country and ensure that those issues are highlighted in the G20 summit. So it's an ongoing. United States still have, China also have special envoy on the Horn of Africa. So these special envoys do play a critical role to deal with conflict, to deal with a number of issues, particularly one issue or two or three, not the role of an ambassador that deals with all sorts of things. Your country's nationals in that country, climate change, dealing with trade, diplomacy, and all other stuff. Envoy is issue-based task that has to be resolved urgently.
There are a couple of WhatsApps that have come in now, Professor. I'm just going to go through some of those for you. One says, will Mcebisi Jonas be accepted in the US even though he still holds his views about Trump? I mean, the political views of somebody you sent as an envoy, do they matter where they're going? If, in this case, he says it's something that he said in the past, how important is it when you look at the character that you appoint as a special envoy, that they themselves are not people who cause controversy or have done something that might be deemed controversial where they're going, where you are assigning them?
It really depends with the environment. I think we are handling a very poisoned environment, the US, South Africa, that involves a number of issues that he might be able to navigate, but I think he's going to also to face a lot of problems, which had nothing to do with him as a person. The mere fact that if United States, for instance, wants South Africa to drop the ICJ case, and I doubt very much if Pretoria will be able to drop that case, because that would be the end of its standing globally. It's a principal question, or be forced to leave BRICS, for instance, or to abandon the entire agenda for the G20 summit. There are a number of issues that it would be really hard for South Africa to compromise on. But others, there are issues, the politics at the end of the day, it's all about food on the table. There are certain pragmatic moves that South Africa could compromise and allow the relationship to be in a good footing.
Another WhatsApp here. Hi, Tshidi. If these envoys need people who have strong connections with the host country, as Professor Manyai is saying, in this case of the USA, what on earth is Mcebisi Jonas what on earth will Mcebisi Jonas offer to the Americans, because he's a conflicted individual, and the USA will definitely not entertain him. That is a sentiment that keeps coming up about what does he have to offer. Professor, there is also a voice note from Kingsley. I just want you to take a listen, please.
Dumela Tshidi and team, Kingsley from Germiston. My question regarding being a special envoy to a country, in particular Mcebisi Jonas, is to what extent does the personality of the individual and the official channels that he is able to engage with determine the effectiveness of his role, particularly when you're dealing with a United States president that appears to be quite petty, irrational, and has no issues with telling blatant lies.
All right, thank you. That's from Kingsley. That speaks to the tools that he needs to use, the access that he does require in order to be successful, doesn't it, Prof?
Oh, indeed. Also, he, beyond the tools and everything else, he also has to have a clear, thought-out mission in terms of the issues packaged in a way that we are willing to give in these areas. These are no-go areas. One is not sure what kind of a set of issues that he's going with. Is it to save AGOA? We know AGOA is dead in the water as it stands. To open a new trade agreement between South Africa and China and the US. Those are kind of things that one would expect him to open up the channels. His own issues and utterances, given the fact that he's playing an ad hoc role in and out, it really depends on President Trump and his team, whether they will accept him or not. They might not, given the fact of some of the utterances he has unfortunately made, and the position he sits in MTN. MTN has issues in Iran. So some of the issues, if they really want to be petty, they might raise those issues, or just let him stay in Washington without giving him high-level access. So it really depends. So the bigger question is that has the president opened up channels behind the scenes, backdoor channels, to allow him to be effective? If not, I do not see him succeeding.
And just very briefly, my last one really, in the current political climate, geopolitical climate, do you see more envoys being employed as a way to manage the many, many tensions that we're dealing with across the globe?
Yes, I think we are now getting in that era, a chaotic world order we're getting into, that at times will rely more on individuals and personalized nature of diplomacy than the formal that we are all used to. So we are already deep in that world order.
And holding them accountable, if you've appointed people into a special envoy, do you just revoke their right to be a special envoy, or other ways that are available to a president, a head of state, or even a host country that's dealing with a special envoy to hold them accountable for actions that have gone awry?
It depends. When he gets in the United States, I think it shouldn't take him a week or a month to know whether he's going to be successful or not. And it depends with him. He would tell the president that it's a mission impossible. It's a mission possible, given how he is welcomed. And if the president has the powers to say, come back, there's no need to continue with this. So it all depends with the president.
All right, so that sounds to me like it's going to be a very quick read of whether it's something that is successful or not successful in that regard. Thank you so much. We're speaking to Professor David Munyai, Associate Professor of Political Science and International Relations at the University of Johannesburg. It's now 11:29, literally counting down the seconds to Mbali Dlamini, who's got your headlines. She's in studio. Mbali?
Thanks, Tshidi. A very good morning. Former Free State Premier Ace Magashule has pleaded not guilty to the charges he faces in the asbestos trial against him. Magashule and his co-accused face charges of fraud and corruption linked to a 225 million rand asbestos tender. Magashule insists that the trial is a combination of a smear campaign as well as a fishing expedition. Veteran actor Don Mlangeni Nawa, best known for his role as Zeb Matabane in Isidingo, has died. Nawa's family confirmed the news of his passing a short while ago, but have not disclosed the cause of his death. The legendary actor, who has been on South African screens for many years now, was 65 at the time of his passing. And accused number 2 in the Jocelyn Smith trial, Stefano van Rijn, maintains he only admitted to being involved in the child's disappearance because he was threatened by police. Those are the headlines, this EWN and more at midday or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
In Amalgam, heading into the Joburg CBD, that's coming from the Rivoli area. You can still expect about a 30-minute delay on Main Reef Road between Nasrec and the M2. In four ways, there's bumper-to-bumper traffic. Winnie Mandela Drive between Uranium and Broad Acres Drive. If you're heading towards Tlorkop, that's leaving Midrand, there's slow-moving traffic. This is on Allendale Road between Kynock and Zierfontein Road. Also look out for those faulty traffic lights in Alex at Marlborough Drive and Far East Bank. I'll have your next Eyewitness News traffic update just after 12.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
John Perlman. Weekday afternoons,
3 to 6.
The reference then to dispute between City Power and the Salga Bargaining Council. Is it your view that there is no such dispute, or are you saying there is a dispute but it's about something else?
I am not aware of Salga Bargaining Council bringing a dispute to us. I am aware, however, of one City Power employee who is in the supply chain space, having put a claim to say some people who he believes were wrongfully promoted.
John Perlman.
3 to 6 on 702.
11:32. Old Mutual Music in the Gardens, in partnership with 702 and Breakout Events, brings you Grammy Award-winning saxophonist Kirk Whalum on Sunday, 18th May at the Walter Sisulu National Botanical Garden. From R&B to the smooth sounds of contemporary jazz, let Kirk Whalum take you on a soulful journey. Tickets available at Web Tickets from 195 Rand. Or Mutual Music in the Gardens featuring Kirk Whalum live Sunday, 18 May at the Walter Sisulu National Botanical Garden. Gates open at 2 p.m. in proud partnership with 702.
Let's toast to Kumalo, Sitole and Associates.
Kumalo, that's me, a partner at the table. If I had it my way, I would have made it Kumalo, Sitole, Abo Baba Nabo Auntie, who helped with money for registration fees when I was short. And don't forget my grandfather, Umtunga. He's usually in overalls, but today, uswenkile. They all worked hard to get me here. So kahle, they really are partners in this business.
Experience the power of mutuality. In 2024, we allocated 5.6 billion Rand in profit share to our graduate professional members, because at PPS, success is better shared. Learn more at pps.co.za. PPS is a licensed life insurer, controlling company and authorized FSP.
Our homes are built to stand the test of time. From time to time, it may need a little maintenance or more. At Cash Build, we have everything you'll need to maintain your home or take on your next renovation project, such as bricks and cement for strength and foundation. And we can't forget paint when it's time for a new color. Visit your nearest Cash Build to shop the best quality materials at the lowest prices.
Cash Build. This Freedom Month, 702 invites you to a soulful celebration of democracy and music. Join us for an exclusive afternoon of world-class live jazz, gourmet dining, and connection. Curated by Jazz and Beyond's Nothemba Madumo. Wednesday, 30th April, at the historic Sanctuary Mandela, Houghton. With performances by Fea Faku, Herbie Twahedi, and Ziza Maftik. Plus a global concert live stream from Abu Dhabi. Celebrate the freedom of jazz on International Jazz Day with 702 and Jazz and Beyond. Powered by Omoda. Limited seats available. Book now at ticketmaster.co.za.
For more about 702,
Go to primemediaplus.com.
11:35. I'm seeing all your WhatsApps, guys. I take my L. I said, I remember Bradon Mlangeninawa was Latasha. I couldn't place where Latasha was from. So all your WhatsApps, yes. It's good, it's nice. I remember now. He was the Mashonisa, right? So yes, a really memorable part of our arts and culture in this country. TV screens, if you grew up in the 90s, early 2000s, you did not grow up without seeing Bradon on the television. As I said, it's 11:35, and of course, it's the last bit of the show. And as per usual on Wednesday, it's time for the sharing space.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
All right, so a letter has come through to the CM show. It says, I hope you are well. Please keep me anonymous. This is where the listener with a problem, writes in asking for some of your help, and you get to weigh in and give a bit of guidance. Says, I need your advice. I have a 10-year-old little girl who I had with a lady I was dating in my early 20s. We've since broken up, but we have a healthy co-parenting relationship. The mother of my child went on to have another child a few years after we broke up. Her child is 5 years old, so theirs together is 10. She has another one who's 5. Recently, during the school holidays, I told my daughter's mom that I'd like to take my daughter on holiday to the Eastern Cape, and I needed her permission. She agreed to me taking my daughter with, but she had one condition, that I take a 5-year-old along with as well. She told me that the two children are a package and are very close, and that I could not separate them, especially for a holiday. I was taken aback by this because as much as I want my daughter to be close to her sister is not my child. She has her own father, and she visits him often, and she's never visited her father with my daughter. This condition by my ex meant that I would have to cater for the 5-year-old's expenses, and as she's younger, I would have to pay extra attention to her. On top of that, my daughter's mother said the 5-year-old's nanny would have to come with us. This would obviously increase the cost of the trip and take me completely out of budget, but as much as it was an inconvenience, I agreed for the sake of peace and took both kids on holiday. This is the first time my ex has made this request, but the whole experience has left me concerned. What will happen in the future when I want to take my child on holiday? Will I be expected to take both kids on holiday with me all the time? Is it fair for my ex to send both kids with me? What to do? So this listener is asking for advice. 011-883-072. I can't get the numbers right in my head today. It's 011-883-0702. 0702. Got it? And then to send a WhatsApp or a voice note, it's 072-702-1702. 072-702-1702. Here's a father of a 10-year-old who had a child with somebody, who went on to have a child with somebody else. So there's 2 daughters, 2 children. One is his biological daughter. The other is somebody else's child with his former partner. They go on holiday with his daughter, and the lady says, you can't take just our child. You've got to take the baby sister, the half sister with as well. You can't separate them, that the two are a package. What's interesting for me is that with all these reservations, he went on to take both on holiday. Not only that, he also took the nanny of the 5-year-old. He complains about the cost. I don't understand where here. He doesn't seem to tell us whether or not he raised the issue of the cost, but it seems he covered the cost of not only his daughter, the 10-year-old, but the 5-year-old, as well as the nanny. So he's not worried about the impact of such conditions in the future. Says that the experience left him concerned, and he's worried about the future, and that when he wants to take his daughter on holiday again, will his former partner say you must take both kids? That's what's concerning him. Is it fair? That's what he's also asking, for his ex to send him on holiday with both kids. Mind you, the 5-year-old has a different dad and sees the different dad on her own at different times without the 10-year-old tagging along. Is it fair? What do you say, dear listener? Please assist Anonymous in navigating the space. As I said, 011-883-0702, 072-702-1702.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
All right, so we're waiting on your advice a little bit on what should Anonymous do. Should he take the child with? I mean, I always worry about that as well, where we're in such a difficult period, a difficult era of life that I'd never, as a mother, I'd never want my child to go with somebody else, especially if he's not the father, even if they've built a relationship. But I also recognize that as a child, right, a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old, can you imagine what it would be like for the 5-year-old for them to have been separated, and then the 10-year-old comes back from holiday and talks about being at the seaside. They've gone to the Eastern Cape, so seen the ocean and the beach, and then the 5-year-old doesn't have that experience. What do you harbor when you separate them? So that is a concern, I imagine, that the mother might have had. But the father says that this left him concerned. He also had to handle the costs of all of this. I've got a couple of WhatsApps for you. Let me put those on the line.
Morning, City. How are you? This is John Bretz. Just want to weigh in on this issue. This guy was not supposed to take the other child with the nanny. It's wrong. He's getting used to something that he will not finish it. This woman is just playing with him. He's just playing with him. And I must stand up as a man, fight for the truth. Fight for what is the truth and what is right. Thanks. Good show.
Good day. Yeah, just a little advice for the guy that is concerned about the request the ex made regarding the child. I think it's unfair, and I think that once he allows her to bully her into saying they come as a package, once he allows that, she will continuously do it. And I'm also just wondering what the partner of the guy has to say about this, because I don't think it will also seem okay to his partner and might potentially cause problems between them. I think, this thing of women emotionally blackmailing baby daddies into them taking kids that are not theirs, I think it is totally wrong. It is unacceptable, and it just needs to stop.
This is Lolo from Orlando West. Haibo X, even the babysitter. What's next? You'll also be tagging along next time they go on a trip. That's very unfair. Guy, you've got to... Don't allow this to happen again. Thank you.
But Haibo X, I agree. Lina, Haibo X. I don't know. One of the voice notes there asked about what does the guy's partner think. He doesn't say whether he has a partner or not. But still, I also see that there'll be a day where the baby mama, the ex rather, will say, I also want to tag along. I also want to go on holiday. I don't understand how that works. It's fascinating to me that one of the voice notes said that it's time women stop blackmailing their exes with such issues. Is this a thing that happens frequently? Because the 5-year-old is not his child. It's not his child. Is it frequent where mothers will say, yes, that the other one is not yours, but these people are a package deal? Because in this case, the mother says the 10-year-old and the 5-year-old are a package deal. More of your thoughts after this, please.
This is the weekend.
702 brings you more than great conversation.
Expect soul,
stories,
and sounds to match every moment.
Whether you're road tripping,
hosting family, or stealing a quiet moment for yourself,
we've got the perfect soundtrack.
From Good Friday to Easter Monday, enjoy special holiday programming to keep you connected and entertained.
Join Kenny Maystreet from 10 to 2 and Pushaza Sibia from 2 to 6.
Richard Mwaba wraps up Saturday from 6 to 8.
On Sunday, Nothemba Madumo will take you into the evening from 6 to 9.
Wherever you are this Easter,
702 is with you.
702. Let's walk the talk.
Dear Journal, trying to be an adult, day 3,268. I love payday because my salary would look huge to 15-year-old me, but that's in 2011 money, not 2024 money. 28-year-old me is not so easily impressed.
Recently removed from the family payroll? Get covered at pineapple.co.za. It's like 570 Rand a month, so it's 100% the insurance for you. Underwritten by Old Mutual Alternative Risk Transfer Insurer Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP. Premiums are risk profile dependent.
Hi, I'm Lewis Hamilton. Victory demands everything, but the journey is never solo. My team carves the way, data and innovation are my compass. This is how today's champions are made.
Drive your success and trade like a champion. CFI, a global leading broker now in South Africa. Access over 15,000 instruments, advanced trading tools, 24/7 support, and superior trading services. Visit cfi.trade today. CFI Financial is an authorized financial services provider.
CFI, empower yourself.
Are you the owner of a hospitality business or do you rent out holiday accommodation? Share your holiday guest horror story now. WhatsApp 072 702 1702 and tune into 702 Afternoons with Lebohile Mabocha tomorrow from 1 p.m.
For more about 702,
Go to primemediaplus.com.
It's 11:45. The last 15 minutes of the Clement Manyathela Show. Tshidi Madia standing in for Clement. It is the sharing space. Anonymous has written in asking for advice. Anonymous is the father of a 10-year-old little girl. He's trying to take his little girl on holiday. He happens to co-parent with his ex. They have a healthy, and I think it's important, they have a healthy co-parenting relationship. However, when he went to his ex and he said, look, I want to take my child on holiday, the mother, who also happens to have another baby, who's now a 5-year-old, said, you can't just take our daughter alone. You must take her and her sister, half-sister, that they're a package deal. Anonymous ended up paying not only for his daughter's holiday, but the half-sister as well, and a nanny who looks after the 5-year-old. He's worried that this is a trend. From my understanding, he's done it already. And he's worried that this will continue, and he's trying to figure out what needs to happen. How does he draw boundaries when he's already here? Matema in Alberton, what do you think Anonymous should do? Oh no, your line is not great at all, Matem. I'm going to put you back and I'm going to try bring you in. For now, though, let me play a couple of voice notes while we try to sort out Matema's line.
Good day, 702 listeners. Guys, this is bad. You know? We as men, it ends up as if we are being disrespectful or anyone. The lady, she's just taking advantage. Yeah. I can't be raising you understand? And the way she's going about it, she's just taking advantage, and then nah man, this is not on. My guy, take your child even away from the lady. Yeah. Get custody of fingers. That's it. Thank you.
Morning, Tshidi, nice show. Yeah, Grootman, aba menzi paru mzala. Aba menzi paru le Grootman. That's all I can say. Because that's so unfair. That's so unfair.
Ba menzi paru Grootman. Ba wenzi paru. Matema and Alberton, let's try your line now.
Hi, Tshidi and the listeners. Yeah, I just wanted to say the guy needs to put his foot down. I mean, he might have agreed out of shock, not knowing how to react in such a short space of time. But then if he allows it, then he's getting into an emotional, I would say, abuse, because then the chick will try and do it over and over again. If she wants him to take the child with them all the time, then she has to pay for the 5-year-old and the nanny's portion. I think that's only fair. If she wants this to continue. Otherwise, the guy can just calmly say, you know what, I'm going to take my child. If you want your 5-year-old to have the same experience, then you will have to take her to whatever trip that they will go to, and then these two will continue with their lives. Because I feel like the guy is just going to be in a circle that he won't be able to get out of.
Thank you. That's Matema out in Alberton. So he's allowed himself to be taken advantage of. And the thing about it is, he didn't say no. He went on the holiday. He paid for the nanny. He paid for the 5-year-old on top of his own child. Here's a WhatsApp from Anonymous. It says, please keep me anonymous. With regards to Anonymous, I think the first mistake was to agree to the baby mama's condition because he may now have certain expectations. Secondly, not to mention the ridiculous increase in costs. The condition, in my humble opinion, clearly encroaches on anonymous quality time with his child and parental rights. He needs to put his foot down and seek legal advice to back him up, because I don't think this is legal or fair. That's anonymous. And I think that's a point somebody else pointed out to me in the WhatsApp, saying that we don't rely often enough on the law. You've got access to the law, the legal avenues and parameters, so you can set boundaries. That's not what he's looking at. No, not at all. Hear more of your voice notes on this matter.
Hi, Tshidi. Just regarding the issue of the guy who was requested to take the 5-year along with to a trip, the lady is not fair. At least she could have met him halfway in terms of expenses to say, okay, fine, please take both kids together, but the father of the 5-year-old should have covered the costs of the trip.
Good morning. That is absolutely unfair. You know, you mentioned that when the son goes to visit his dad or the daughter, the other one doesn't take along. But in this case, just because I want to take my daughter on a trip, by default I must take another child. No, that woman, she's not fair. If what happens to the left, it needs to happen to the right hand side as well. So if she was taking the other son to see his father, then the other child also takes along, even though that one is not the biological parent. Then then she has a point. But now the guy wants her daughter, but they say no, you must take this one. But that other one, when he's going to see his father, that other one is remaining behind. No, he mustn't do it at all. Joseph Ranfontaine.
Hi, Tshidi. Anonymous here. I just want to comment on this because it hit home. Yeah, same thing happened to me years ago. All I can say is our exes use our children to get to us, and the no children's on the picture. That's the sad reality. I once complained. They said they can take your matter to children's court, but that's a waste of money and time. So yeah, that's the abuse all of us are going through. Very sad.
Thank you so much for that. It's very sad, and I'm hearing that that's where the difficulty is, managing the love you have for your children and what's happening. I also want to ask, actually, is it just a one-sided thing? Because it seems like, hey, all of you are painting women. Yes, in an anonymous case, it's about the women, but I don't think that it's a one-way street. Certainly, it isn't. Jack in Boxburg, hi.
Hey, Tshidi, how are you?
Good thing. What's on your mind?
Hey, Tshidi, you know, this issue of women trying to manipulate us in doing things just to punish us, it's very wrong. I was in a situation whereby I had this lady that we had a child with. Actually, we were engaged, and then things did not work out. And she moved on. We had a very healthy co-parenting situation arrangement that we had. She went ahead and had 2 other kids with 2 different guys, right? As my daughter was growing, I decided, okay, fine, I can take her to a particular private school. And then I paid for everything. We did not even go to court, but I made arrangements on top of the maintenance that I was paying. Then, boom, all of a sudden, someone wants me to take her other 2 kids to a private school as well. And I'm saying, how do I do that? Because those are not my kids. And she was saying, no, these kids come from the same mother. And now how do I explain to people that my children are going to different schools? And I said, that's your business, not mine. I cannot take responsibility for other men's children while I'm looking after mine. I do come, if I come and take them all, say we go to the mall, I don't discriminate, right? I will buy whatever that I buy for them, and the same as my kids. But at the end of the day, I cannot even go and pay for their education as well. They are not my kids. They are not my responsibilities. I said, tell their babies, their fathers, to pay or take them to a private school. So it was a huge fight. And the relationship from then on changed. And everything now, there's this tension that my daughter is not being treated as well. And there's a lot that has changed. Simply because I said no.
take. Thank you so much, Jack. That's quite sad, though. And that's my other question: is it just a one-way street? Because a lot of the men are like, yeah, it's women. Women do this, women do that. But there's an important point that I'm seeing on the WhatsApp line that I really agree with. Being4way says the mom is being irresponsible to send a little girl of 5 with a man that's not their father in this country. Kids aren't even safe with their own fathers in this very country. The conversation is beyond boundaries. It is shocking. The mother, I think, would argue that the nanny was there, but still, Linda, I can't, I don't know, I don't get it. Gardner and Midrand, hi.
Hi, Tshidi, how are you?
Good, thank you. Anonymous, advice for Anonymous?
You know what? Me, I would just put it like this. There's nothing wrong with taking the nanny and the kid, the 5-year-old, right? Provided the father of the 5-year-old is going to go chip in, maybe 50-50 or chip in on the trip as well and pay for the nanny and the 5-year-old. In that sense, both kids will be in the same space and they won't be separated. What I don't understand is the fact that if the 5-year-old goes visit the father, the 10-year-old stays behind. But when the 10-year-old visits the father, the 5-year-old must tag along. They become a pair. Why is it like that? So me, I don't have a problem with taking the child of maybe my ex along with my daughter as well. But let the father of the 5-year-old chip in. Let them contribute then in that sense and say, okay, we'll share the bill, we'll contribute for this too, for you guys to have fun and the kids will always be together. And
So
they won't
actually
be separated.
all work together as a collective.
Exactly.
All right,
so
Gardner.
in a sense, I'll pay maybe for petrol, snacks on the road and all that, and they will pay for accommodation. You see,
All right.
now we're meeting each other halfway.
All right, thank you so much. That's Gardner out of Midrand saying they can actually all collaborate around parenting. Tembisa, the last word's really yours. Please, let's be a little bit brief. Your advice for Anonymous?
Straight to the point, Tshidi. You know, this thing sometimes usually leads to people end up saying, you know what, instead of taking packages, I'm not even going to take my own child on holiday now. And that you tell the lady when you'll have to explain to this child going forward as to when this decision came about. So I think ladies should also think about it before they do. And I prefer kids to go and stay with their grandmothers. They mustn't stay with their mothers if it happens that we end up breaking up.
All
Thank
right.
you.
All right. Thank you. That's Tembisa out in Germiston. My last word on this, right, is this wonderful, wonderful WhatsApp message via the WhatsApp line. Stop co-parenting verbally. Have a co-parenting plan and write it down. Make it legal. That's the way you navigate this.
Aubrey Masango.
Weekday evenings,
8 to midnight.
Look at what the producers of the so-called luxury products in China are beginning to reveal. That all of your beloved luxury products, Bo Mang Mang Vuitton, Bo Mang Mang Gucci, are made there in China. They commission Chinese production companies to make these things for a fraction of the cost that you buy them for. They don't know it's made there in China. And we've always known that. I mean, that's where that song Yes Nyaga came from.
Aubrey Masango.
8 to midnight on 702.
702.
Running a hotel, lodge or B&B means giving guests the perfect getaway. But who is looking out for you? From loss of income to unpaid hotel bills and malicious damage to your property, the risks to your business are many. Smart business owners trust Auto & General Hospitality Insurance so that when suddenly happens, you are covered. For an obligation-free quote, visit autogen.co.za or SMS business to 49025. Auto & General is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
So we did a thing. A full commitment kind of thing. We've partnered with Sixt to bring worldwide to your doorstep. So you see how that's a serious thing. Because that's what you deserve. We know you're the GOAT. So premium it is. Premium service, premium vehicles, premium you, premium us. Sani Sixt is all about adding extra to ordinary. Extra reach, extra countries, so you can be extra premium worldwide. Be the greatest of all time and rent Sani Sixt.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
Coming up next is the Midday Report with Mandy Wiener. She's back in town. Good afternoon. What's coming up?
Hey, Tshidi. The president's wrapping up his Eastern Cape oversight visit. He's been speaking about that. We'll speak to Alpha, who's there as well. We'll unpack the ISS poll. Do you have thoughts on the ISS?
Nope, I don't.
Which well, we'll talk about it then, which shows the DA support is higher than the ANC currently. Ace Magashule has pleaded not guilty in the asbestos case in Bloemfontein. Protests are continuing at the Walter Sisulu University, and actor Don Mlangeni Nawa has passed away.
Very sad news there indeed. Mandy's with you between 12 and 1, of course, on the Midday Report. On my end, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for engaging. Have a lovely afternoon. It's 12 o'clock. Here's Mbali Dlamini.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon, I'm Mbali Dlamini. Veteran actor Don Mlangeni Nawa, best known for his role as Zeb Matabane in Isidingo, has died. Nawa's family confirmed the news of his passing a short while ago, but have not disclosed the cause of his death. The legendary actor, who has been on South African screens for many years, was 65 at the time of his passing. Nawa is also known for his role on Iskudis Nice, Uzalo and Abu Mama. We will have more on this in our later bulletins. We shift our focus to the courts now, where former Free State Premier Ace Magashule has pleaded not guilty to the charges he faces in the asbestos trial against him. Magashule and his co-accused face charges of fraud and corruption linked to a 225 million rand asbestos tender. Magashule insists that the trial is a combination of a smear campaign as well as a fishing expedition. At the same time, lawyers for controversial businessman Edwin Sodi, who is also an accused in the same matter, have challenged the admissibility of the evidence against him, citing a regulation from the State Capture Commission. Eastern Cape Premier Oscar Mabuyane says more than 100 schools were constructed in the province during the 6th administration. Mabuyane made the comments while presenting a detailed report to President Cyril Ramaphosa and his cabinet this morning at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium in Gqeberha. The cabinet's engagement with the Eastern Cape government is part of a series of attempts aimed at strengthening service delivery. The province has been contending with renewed concerns about poor infrastructure and overcrowding in classrooms. Mabuyane has assured the president that the provincial government will continue to prioritise the improvement of school infrastructure going forward.
And we are moving ahead with speed in putting more investment of about 7.4 billion that is earmarked to refurbish and build another 138 schools